All right, what's going on, everybody? We're live here on YouTube. I want to make sure you guys can see me and hear me okay. And if you're joining in live, welcome. Please let me know in the chat your name and where in the world you're joining in from. Really excited to be here with you guys live. I appreciate your time as always. I don't take for granted the fact that you're here. You showed up, which is something that most people don't do. You know, they say 80% of success is actually showing up. Because if you don't show up, you don't learn, you don't grow, and if you don't learn and grow, you don't have anything to take action with. So I respect you and I acknowledge you for being here, and I'm gonna do everything I can here today to make sure I share with you some positive information, tools, resources, inspiration, so that your life can be better off for it. And so I'm really excited, but I wanna see who's joining in. Let me know here in the chat. Hope you guys are doing amazing. All right, we got Masood from Norway. We got Thomas from Poland, welcome. We got Errol from the United States. We got Kelly from New York, Manuel from Utah, Fahad from Qatar, Deborah from West Africa, welcome. Norberto from United States, welcome. Alexander from Richmond, Virginia. Julie from Chicago, Illinois, welcome. We got Mahel from London, Edgar from Mexico City. Let's see, Kavita from the Bay Area, California. Santa Ana, California. Jose, welcome. Teresita from Boston. Anna from Utah. Jim from California. Roger from Morocco. Juan from Mexico. Troy from Saskatchewan, Canada. We got Dashi from Salem. Antonio from California. Peter from Abu Dhabi. Anthony from Canada. Great to see Canada represent. Pavel from Dubai. David from New York. Awesome. There's more coming in, but listen, I thank you guys so much. It's just always so amazing to see so many people show up from all different parts of the world. And we're all kindred spirits because we all want to learn, we all want to grow, we all want to create the best quality life for ourselves. And so today I've got a topic I'm really excited to share with you. And it's a topic that I think together, my purpose, my outcome together here on this live stream is to help free yourself from anything that's holding you back in your life from getting what you really want. Because my philosophy in life is, number one, we got to find out, what do you want for your life? What is the vision that you have for your life? And you can create, have, do, and experience anything that you want. Anything that you set your mind to, I believe, you can create for yourself. And you might not have clarity on exactly what your passion is, your mission, your purpose. That's okay, we can discuss that. But even if you have an idea of what kind of lifestyle you want to live and what kind of life you want to have, and you have a sense or a feeling of that, we really got to define what that is, because once you know what you want, and by the way, sometimes you have to let go of these limitations, which we're going to talk a lot about today, but you have to put yourself back as if you're a kid. You know, if you ask a kid, what do they want to be when they grow up, or what do they want out of life? They have no problem telling you, because kids don't have all the baggage that we have as we grow up as adults. When you grow up, you have desires, you have goals, you have aspirations for yourself in your life, but inevitably, we all get disappointed. We all have things that we expected in life and didn't turn out the way we wanted to, and that is painful, and we're disappointed by that. And we go through a lot of pain, and that pain can end up being a lot of emotional baggage that we carry with us. And unfortunately, so many people, they stop dreaming and desiring and pursuing things in life because they believe that the past is going to be more like the future. And I don't believe that's true. One of my mentors, Tony Robbins, always taught me is that the past does not equal the future. You know, if you want to drive your car and you're driving your car forward into your future, but you're looking at the rear view mirror, you're going to crash. If you're still got the past in your mind as you're trying to move forward, you're not going to get to where you want to be. You have to be willing to let go of the past and understand that right now in your life, you can create whatever kind of life you want. And we all have that power and that choice. And so kids, most often, they don't have the limitations that we have as an adult. You ask them what they want to be when they grow up, they're going to tell you a firefighter, an astronaut, the president, the CEO of a big company, or to invent something cool or amazing. And, it's a shame that as human beings, sometimes we lose that. And I think most people in society have undersold themselves in a huge way. They're not really maxing out their potential. I mean, I think all of us, there's been, research that's been done, or people have said that we don't even tap into 10% of our potential. There's so much untapped potential that we all have, and we've undersold ourselves in terms of how much money we could really make, what kind of difference or contribution we could have on this planet, or the level of joy and pleasure and ecstasy and bliss and love that we could really have and experience, or the level of relationship and love and passion that you can enjoy, or the adventure and spontaneity and experiences that's available for us. You know, we know it's true because there are people on this planet that are living their life in a limitless way. People that are experiencing incredible things, and we all have the same nervous system. You know, some of us have more advantages than others. Some of us have disadvantages. You know, I think we all can relate to having some of that, but there's countless examples, as I'm going to demonstrate for you today, of people that are much worse off than you and I. And they found a way, and they figured out, and they stepped up, and they owned themselves in their life in a different level. And that's why they've been able to create an incredible quality of life. And that's proof and evidence that if they could do it, then you can too. So I always like to look for other people for inspiration, to find role models and examples of what's possible. Because I believe that, you know, we have so much potential, we never tap into it, that the potential of the human spirit is limitless. You know, most often things that are impossible just means that someone's never done it yet, because there's so many things on this planet that are possible today, but there was once a time where other people thought it was impossible. Whether it's an airplane flying through the sky to a different part of the world, or an automobile, or the internet and technology like this, you know, other people, we're benefiting from this world that's so much better than the world that our grandparents lived in, and we have opportunities today that they didn't have before us that we get to benefit from, but it's only because other human beings had the courage. They had the courage and they had the faith to actualize their potential and to take action, to apply, to pursue their dream, to innovate, to create, and to share it with the rest of us. How incredible is that? So listen, we're going to dive into this topic today. I got a lot to share on it, but a few important things I want to mention for you guys that I think is relevant. Number one, I've had a lot of people ask me about the Amazing Selling Machine. So if you've been following me, the other live streams I did last week with Tatiana, and the last video that I did, the Amazing Selling Machine, which is a course that teaches step-by-step how to get started to build your own Amazon business, your own e-commerce business online, which is a course that I took back in 2014 along with Tatiana, and is one of the best courses I've ever been through to learn to build an online business on Amazon, which I think right now is one of the best opportunities. I was just reading an article that I sent out to my email subscribers the other day, that because of COVID-19, e-commerce has accelerated by 4 to 6 years. 4 to 6 years. I mean, e-commerce was already like this. Amazon, Shopify, you know, buying products online. It was already like this, but now it's like this because of everything that happened with COVID-19. It just expanded the opportunity, and it's one of the best times, in my opinion, for someone to build a business online. The skills of the future are learning how to make money online, knowing how to use your computer, learning how to use your smartphone, and be able to learn the skills that can allow you to contribute and add value, whether that's through e-commerce or any other avenue, whether it's anything else online. And so ASM 12 is the newest course. I'll put a link for you guys in the description and chat. They did some trainings, and there's a recording of it available for you guys that you can click on through, save the link. The link is www.projectlifemaster.com/ASM. And I've been having a lot of people that have joined my coaching group that I'm starting, going to kick it off after July 22nd. That's a coaching group where I'm going to work with a group of people that are committed, that want to build their business and want my experience to help them along the way. Together, we're going to build your business this year. And I want to play a role, a significant role, I hope, in being your coach along the journey. And so I put together some incredible bonuses as well, which we'll link to below for you in the chat and in the description of this so that you can learn more about it. Okay, so with that being said, I want to dive into the next thing. And I do want to mention too, I want to share a few things here with you guys today, some great content, but I also want to answer your questions. So if you do have questions for me, I want to share with you first, teach you something that I think can benefit everybody here, regardless if you want to build a business or not. I want to help you go to the next level in your life, but then I'm going to turn my attention to the chat and answer the questions that you guys have. So if you have questions about building a business online, self-development, something that's holding you back in your life, a problem, a challenge, whatever it might be, I want you guys to know that I'm doing this for you. I'm trying to be present with you, and I know everyone has different aspects of their life that they're focused on. So I want to do the best I can to really support you with whatever it is that you need during these times. So save your questions as we get to that section, and then I'm happy to dive in and share that with you. Now, a few other exciting things. Someone did mention, 1 million subscribers on YouTube. Thank you guys so much. I put out a post on my Instagram and my Facebook and even on my community tab here. Thank you guys for that and sharing, what it's been like over 8 years now being a YouTuber. So I really appreciate you guys for being a subscriber. And I thank you just for giving me this platform and audience that I can share these ideas and share with you these things that have made an impact in my life. And my sincerest hope and the reason why I do what I do, to be honest, is that hopefully you can benefit from it as well. If you can benefit from something that I share with you, and you can go on and be happier or be more free or more successful, whatever that is, that's incredible. That means that I'm paying it forward. And sometimes it can be challenging because there's so many people that I'm reaching and interacting with online, and it can be overwhelming. Especially, a lot of people reach out to me, and people are going through hard times in their life, and it's very challenging because I'm trying to figure out, how can I help this person? How can I share something that can have value to their life and help them be free, or help them have less suffering, or share with them opportunities that have benefited my life. And I'm often reminded of this great story. I'll share it with you real quick. There's a storm that happened. There's this old man, he's walking along the beach. And along the beach, he sees that there's this girl, a young girl, that is picking up starfish and throwing them into the ocean. So this old man goes up to the girl and says, "What are you doing?" And she says, "Well, all these starfish are out here on the ocean, or out here on the beach. And as the sun rises, a lot of them are going to die. So I'm trying to save them. I'm trying to take them and throw them in the ocean." And the man says, "Listen, there's so many of them. Like, look, the beach is miles long. You're never going to be able to save all of them." And the girl says, she just picks up a starfish, throws him to the ocean, and says to the old man, "For that one, it mattered." And I'm often reminded of that. You don't have to save everyone. You don't have to help everyone. But for that one person, if one person is here today, and I can share with you something that can make an impact in your life, that could shift a belief, you could have a breakthrough, or I can share with you a strategy or one new action that you can apply to yourself in your life, and that could be all the difference perhaps. I don't know. There might be someone here today that their life will be better off for this. And for me, that mattered. And there's many people here today that perhaps will tune in for a minute or two and say, "This guy's full of it," or "I don't like this guy," and whatever it is, that's okay. But I'm really doing this for those that are here today and they are committed and they are looking for help and they're drowning, and I can throw a raft. And if they're willing to grab that raft or that life vest and be saved or be free, or, and I'm not here to say that everything I have to share can help. I do think a lot of things that I do can, but that's up to you to try on and be open to. But I believe that together today, in this time that we have together, I can share something that you could be better off for. And that's my goal, is to be a blessing in your life. And so a few more things before we dive into what I want to share with you. I got a video coming this week, either tomorrow or Wednesday. It's a goal setting workshop. This is a pretty in-depth video, and it's actually going to be tied into a little bit of what I shared today. I did a video, I think last week, sharing how to improve and master every area of your life. If you haven't watched that video, I encourage you to, because I share the circle where you measure each area of your life: your health, your relationships, your finances, your career, your business, your spirituality, your family, your friends, your emotional well-being, your mindset, to check in on that. And hopefully you watch that video, and hopefully you're creating a ritual in your life to measure and manage each area of your life. Because if you don't measure it, you can't manage it, and it doesn't get better. So I shared with you how I define success, which is that life mastery blueprint. And that's a video that I put out a week ago or so on my channel. The goal setting workshop that I'm putting out on YouTube, it's pretty in-depth. It's probably 40 or 50 minutes long. It's probably my most in-depth goal setting video. I really help you go deep into how to set goals for each area of your life, how to get clear, specific, how to come up with a purpose and a why for it, and then how to actually create an action plan and how to prioritize out of that action plan exactly what you need to do to get to where you want to go. So that's a video coming out soon. I want to give you guys something to look forward to. Another great video I got coming out for you guys too, and it will either be out later this week or maybe early next week. I'm not sure yet, but the title of the video is 21 Crazy, Extreme, Insane Actions That I Took to Become Successful. This is also a pretty in-depth video. And the reason why I go pretty in depth in my videos, I'm not a big believer, to be honest, in doing like a 5-minute video for you guys, because 5 minutes is so surface level, it's not enough to change your life. And unfortunately, people's attention span is so low that they don't even, a lot of people suffer from ADHD. They can't even focus and sit there on something that could change their life that's longer than 5 minutes. And that's why people just click from one video to the next. And that's kind of the challenge that you sometimes have as a YouTuber, right? But I don't care about that, because really what I care about is that there are people that will watch a video in full, and those are the ones that are going to go deep and really be committed to mastery and not just dabbling, and those are the ones that can really make a huge impact in your life. So I don't like to stay at the surface. I like to go deep in what I share, because I'm not interested in just entertaining you for a couple minutes or just giving you a little tidbit here and there. I want to make sure that we create a lasting impact and change in your life, and to do that, it requires more than 5 minutes. So this video though, I go really deep into sharing parts of my past. Back when I was 17, 18 years old, when I first got into self-development, some of the actions that I took to get to where I am today. And I think this will be very educational for you guys, because it will demonstrate for some of you that are interested in creating success in your life, really what it takes. And the sacrifices that I had to make in my life, living on my friend's couch, the work and extreme hours that I had to put in to build my business and to change different aspects of my life. And back when I was single, trying to change my confidence and my social skills and my dating life and overcome my shyness and my fear. The extreme things that I did back then of going to a nightclub sober by myself and forcing myself to approach and talk to women as a way to overcome my fears. I hope that this video that I'm going to put out, I'm kind of embarrassed by some parts of it, but I think it can be a transparent video for many of you to really understand what the journey can be like to go through to be successful. And it's not all, I'm not going to sugarcoat anything, as you guys know. I'm just going to be honest and truthful. And some parts of my past, I look back and I'm like, wow, I can't believe I did that. That's pretty insane. That's pretty crazy that I was willing to do that in my life. And I kind of look at it sometimes with a sense of pride. And then other parts I'm a little bit embarrassed of as well. But I think that can benefit most of you, because you might not have an idea in your life really what it takes, because maybe you don't know anyone that's really successful in life. And I know that something I struggled with, because my friends, my family, I didn't know anyone that was successful. And the only way that I learned about success and really what it takes is by reading books and trying to find mentors and people out there that could share with me the reality and their story and their journey, so that I could benefit from that as well. So that's a video coming out for you guys soon. And of course, be subscribed here, turn on notifications so you can get notified of those great videos for you. Okay, let's dive into what I want to share with you guys today. How to step up in your life, how to achieve your desires, and how to be limitless. And I shared with you already my philosophy. Number one, you got to know what you want out of yourself and out of life. And maybe the lifestyle you want to live, this is one of the first things that I did. Even for me, I didn't really have clarity in my life that, what my mission was going to be. But I did have an idea of what kind of lifestyle I wanted to live. I knew that I wanted to be financially free. And when I learned of the possibility that existed, that you could make passive income, I read the book called The 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss. It taught me that there's a lifestyle that you can live where you can work only 4 hours a week. I discovered that and I thought, oh my gosh, I could take this path of going to university and getting a 9-to-5 and work until I'm 65 years old and retire, and that's, maybe the right path for you or for some people, or at least has been in older generations, what's kind of been sold to us. Or there's a new path, and the new path is that I could work and I can learn how to leverage the internet, and I can make passive income, and I can put the time in up front to create something that can provide passive income, money while I sleep 24/7. And that can give me freedom where I no longer have to trade my time for money, but I built a system that's producing income for me every month. Incredible concept. Once I discovered that, I had a paradigm shift, and I looked at this other path and I was like, not gonna do that. That's not worth it. I looked at this path. I was like, yes. If that's possible, I have no freaking idea how I can do it, but I believed that it was possible, and I just knew that I was going to do whatever it took to figure that out. And that's what got me down the journey of building online businesses and internet marketing, and it wasn't easy. I had a huge learning curve, many ups and downs with it, but I just committed myself. I refused to give up. I invested in courses and mentors and read books, and I did everything I possibly could to be able to create that for myself. And that provided a lifestyle for myself. And once I got to the position where I was working 4 hours a week, and had all this free time, I enjoyed it for a few months, but then I got to the point where I was bored and unfulfilled. And the crazy thing is, once you have freedom in your life, now you're in a position you can pursue whatever passion you want. You can pursue your passion if it is self-development, if it is learning, if it's philanthropy even. You look at some of the most successful people throughout history. A lot of them today are philanthropists. If you look at even at a Bill Gates, he doesn't need to work anymore, and he's created the freedom that he's always wanted in his life, so he's able to dedicate his life now to trying to help the world or humanity in different ways. And so that's the cool thing that can happen even if you can't make money from your passion, because I know there's some people that there's some passions you might have that are harder to make money from than others, but if you create the freedom first, then you have the time to pursue whatever passion you want. You no longer really have to work for money because you built the system in advance. So when you know what you want in your life, that's the number one thing. Now, what stops us from creating the life we want? What stops you? What's holding you back and preventing you from creating the life you want, to build the financial freedom, the business, the career, changing your body, or attracting the man or woman that you really want? What's holding you back from that? And I think we all know the answer. The answer is fear. Fear is something that is really the only thing that stops us in life. Fear of failure, fear of success even, fear of rejection, fear of not being good enough. And fear is just anticipation of pain. It's a way that we protect ourselves. They say that fear is an acronym that stands for false evidence appearing real, or fuck everyone and run, right? But it's something that is a way for us to protect ourselves because we all have experienced pain at some point in our lives. We grew up as human beings in unconditional love. When you're born and I'm born as a baby, our parents are drugged with oxytocin. Oxytocin is a natural hormone and acts as a neurotransmitter in our brain, but it makes your parents have to love you. It's often you can elicit oxytocin just through hugging someone or cuddling or through physical touch. And so human beings, we're dependent on our parents for survival. There's other species and animals, at the moment they're born, they're on their own. The birds, for example, they kick the baby out of the nest and they're on their own, they got to survive. Human beings, if we're not physically loved and cared for, then we die. It's called failure to thrive syndrome, which is why one of the most important things for babies is to touch them and to hug them. And that's why as human beings we have oxytocin. Women have it more than men, but it makes us love and care for our children. And then what happens though, after a few years, is oxytocin starts to wear off. And now when you're a kid, this is a very scary thing because you no longer are getting unconditional love. Now at this point in your life, you do something, you say something, and your mom and dad, they get mad at you, or they yell at you, or they smack you, or the very worst thing of all, they ignore you. And this moment is when fear enters your life. And we all have a deep fear of not being enough. And it's one of the most painful things. And we've all experienced it at different stages. I'm sure for you, for example, you've had moments in your life where you did something and you weren't rewarded for it. In fact, you got paid for it. For example, maybe you were in school and the teacher gave you an assignment or gave you homework and you turned in your paper, you did the homework, and what you got back was a C or a D or an F. And when that happens, you experience pain. Or maybe you got a B, but your parents didn't approve of that because it wasn't an A. And now you got pain for getting a B because you weren't good enough, you weren't perfect, and now you're a perfectionist and you're living your whole life trying to be perfect to get 100%, and you're so fearful of doing anything in your life, starting a business, publishing a book, selling a product on Amazon, no matter what it is, because if it's not perfect, you linked in your mind back when you were a kid with your parents that if you don't get an A, then it means you're not good enough. So even a B, you don't even celebrate. You don't celebrate the fact, well, at least I got a B. If it's not an A and if it's not perfect, then you're a perfectionist, and now you never take action because you never again want to experience that feeling, that pain that you felt. Or maybe you felt pain being embarrassed or humiliated when you were a kid. We've all experienced that. I remember experienced that many times when I was a kid in school and getting laughed at and made fun of and just being humiliated and your face turns bright red and you're trying to avoid those situations because it's so painful, you don't want to experience that. Or you get bullied. You know, in my case, I skipped a lot of school. I barely graduated high school because I was so afraid to be around people to go to class. You know, and I was so terrified even to give a presentation in front of the classroom. And so I'd much rather skip class and take the 0 than actually show up and do that because I was so terrified of that. And so we've all experienced pain. We've all been disappointed. We've all had expectations that have not gone the way we wanted to. You know, maybe it's with a man or a woman, you had a crush and you had feelings, you opened your heart to someone and they trampled all over it and they hurt you and they didn't want to be with you. That's a very painful event. That's very traumatic. And maybe you try to start a business or you try to take some sort of action to make your life better. Maybe you read a self-help book or you watched a video, you got a course, and it promised you or demonstrated to you there's an opportunity and a possibility for you to be better in your life. And it didn't work out the way you wanted to and you got more pain. And what happens for a lot of people is they get to a point in their life where they just get pain, that they get to a point where they think, why even try? Why even bother? And they get to a point of actually called learned helplessness, where they believe that nothing will work. I've tried everything, which is just bullshit. It's just an excuse in the story because they don't want to, they are looking for a reason to protect themselves. And so they've created this limitation, this story, so that they can avoid feeling that pain again. And so that's why it's much easier to be a skeptic or to be a pessimist. Someone who's a skeptic or a pessimist is really just gutless. They're afraid. Because if you follow any limitation, if you follow that trail, it will always lead to fear. It's a way to protect themselves so that they don't have to be hurt. They don't want to get their hopes up because they don't want to be disappointed. And so it's much easier to generalize and just say, oh, that doesn't work, or that won't work for me, or that person's just like this, or all of that is just stories they create as a way to protect themselves because they're terrified of getting their hopes up and feeling pain. And sure enough, most people that live in that world, they settle in their lives for a mediocre life, and they never maximize their potential as a human being. And they're living a life where they're going to come to the end of their life, in my opinion, and have a deep sense of regret. They missed out on life. They decided to be an extra in their own movie, or they decided to sit on the bench and they watch everyone else, on the court, on the field, the stars, the people that get all the admiration, all the success, all the freedom. They're living an extraordinary life, and they're a bystander just watching and observing. And most often, they're hateful and envious and jealous of those people because they're the ones that are actually living their life fully. And this other person's kind of living in their pity pot, and they justify all of that. And so it's not a great way to live. It's not a healthy way to live. And I think that we're all going to experience pain and disappointment in our life, but when pain and disappointment happens, we have that responsibility and the choice to decide what that means for us. You can either decide that your pain, your disappointment means that you're not good enough, and it feeds into your past and all those stories, and you create layers and layers and layers of all these limitations that you've imposed on yourself. Okay, they're self-imposed, most of our limits that we put on ourselves, and they keep us more stuck and trapped in the world that we live in. Or you have the choice to instead decide something more empowering that it's going to mean for you. That it's going to mean something that you can use that to fuel you towards where you want to go. And when you study the most successful people throughout history, and you find their stories of what they've gone through, when you find people that have broken through, they've defied the odds of what's possible. They didn't accept the limitations of society or their peers or their friends or their teachers, or even of themselves. But they set a standard for themselves, and they went for it, and they stepped up in their life. Those are the people that are role models to everybody else. I mean, there's countless examples. If you look at an Oprah Winfrey was raped when she was 9 years old. She was abused. She got beaten up constantly. She had a rough childhood. If you study the story of Oprah Winfrey, her big limitation when she went into, wanting to get into TV, and I think being a news anchor at that time, the limitation was, I'm black, I'm overweight. They want a skinny, young, thin, white girl. And here I am, a black woman who's overweight, and I don't fit into the mold of what was attractive and what these producers and networks wanted. But she decided in that moment, I'm not going to let that stop me. The past does not equal the future. I don't care what I've been through. I don't care what my race is. I don't care what my circumstances are. This is what I want. And by buying into the limitation, which would have absolutely been justified and legitimate, without a doubt, she decided, you know what, I'm not going to accept that. And she set a standard for herself, and she went on to become one of the most influential and powerful women in the world. The first female black billionaire. I mean, she could have accepted her limitations, but she decided not to. And there's countless examples. If you look at Disney, Walt Disney, he got turned down from over 300 banks. Could you imagine being turned down and rejected that many times? He had this incredible vision, this Disney concept that we've all benefited from, has really shaped our childhood and society. Could you imagine if he gave up after the first time he got rejected, or the second time, or the fifth time, or the 10th time? What would the world be like? If you look at Colonel Sanders was 65 years old. He had every reason and excuse that he could have said that I'm too old to be successful. And he got his Social Security check, and he didn't like the amount that he saw, and he said, I'm not going to live like this. And he had this chicken recipe that he really loved, and so he went door to door trying to sell his chicken recipe. He got turned down over 1,000 times, 1,000 times, before someone finally said yes. And then sure enough, as a result of that, he founded Kentucky Fried Chicken, changed the eating habits of a nation, the entire world. Could you imagine if he gave up? Or how about Michael Jordan? Michael Jordan got rejected. He got turned down from his varsity basketball team. Imagine if he gave up and he just accepted his limitations, said, I'm not good enough, right? That's a meaning. He could have decided either I'm not good enough and basketball's not for me and I can't be successful at it. The coach said no and denied me. But instead, what makes him a unique individual, what makes someone a Michael Jordan, he said, I'm not going to let someone else says is not going to stop me from what I want. Okay, and even though if it's true, maybe I'm not good enough, or maybe for Oprah, yeah, maybe it is true that she had a disadvantage, that the fact that she was African American or that she was overweight or whatever it might be. They decided not to allow that to be their truth. That might be someone else's truth, but it's not their truth. You get to decide what your truth is going to be. Because there is really no absolute truth in life, by the way. Everything in life is an interpretation. There's an infinite number of interpretations of everything in life. That's why when one event happens for you and the same event happens for someone else, you might interpret it in a very different way than someone else does. That's why, by the way, we have so many different belief systems on this planet. Out of billions of people, there's many different ideologies, there's many different religious beliefs, there's many different political beliefs, and people from the far left to the far right, to people that are into different political belief systems, whether it's Marxism or socialism or communism or capitalism. There's all these different belief systems, and everything in life is interpreted in different ways. So there's no absolute truth. You can't say, well, that person's right and that person's wrong. We all have our own truth, and I'm going to get to that in a minute and how you really decide what's going to serve and empower you in your life. But going back to Michael Jordan, he went on to become one of the greatest basketball player in history. And he's got that famous quote that, he's missed thousands of shots. He missed the game winner shot this many times, and he's failed over and over and over again in his life, and that's why he's successful. It's because of his failure. If you look at Thomas Edison, one of the greatest American success stories, he failed to invent the light bulb over 10,000 times. 10,000 times. And 10,000 attempts before the light bulb lit. Can you and I say that we've attempted something 10,000 times? I can't. Yet let alone 100 times, 50 times. And he didn't believe that every attempt was a failure. If you study Thomas Edison, he said every attempt just meant that it's just another way not to invent the light bulb. And he actually realized that some of his failures could lead to other opportunities, and he had utility and benefit from some of this that led to different inventions that he ended up creating later on. He ended up dying with over 1,000 patents. Pretty remarkable. If you look at, a Stephen King, famous author, or J.K. Rowling, they got rejected countless times from different publishing houses. If you look at Arnold Schwarzenegger, His dream and his goal in life was he wanted to be an actor. He had disadvantages. He had limitations, of course. They said his name was a limitation because nobody can pronounce it. The accent that he had, nobody could understand. But he didn't let that stop him. And you could say, yes, it's a legitimate excuse. It's a legitimate limitation that they had. But the difference, what makes an Arnold Schwarzenegger, what makes an Oprah Winfrey, what makes a Barack Obama, the first black president, what makes anyone who's extraordinary in life that as a society we all look up to, we're all inspired by, is they had similar limitations than you and I and everybody else. The difference between them and everyone else is they decided, I am not going to accept this. I'm not going to buy into this. I'm going to set a new standard. I'm going to defy the odds. I'm going to create my own truth, my own beliefs, and I'm going to create the life that I want. So I invite you, one of the best ways to change your life, to change your belief system, to overcome any limitation, to become limitless, is to study success. Read the biographies, read the stories of other people that have existed on this planet as a human being and see what they've been able to create and see what they've been able to accomplish. And when you read them and you understand their story, you realize they did not all have a silver spoon in their mouth. In fact, most often, here's what I believe. Most often, it's the people that have hit rock bottom, that have the most disadvantages, that have the most limitations and the hardest circumstances. Those often are the people that have the drive to become the most successful and the most influential in this planet. I mean, it's pretty obvious. There's a lot of people, by the way, for example, that grow up, perfect circumstances, great parents, great education, middle class, upper class family. They're entitled to everything, but they have no drive. You know, they're used to getting everything they want, and they can't even fight their way out of a paper bag. I mean, they can't even get anywhere in their life. It's often the people that have been to hell and back, the people that have hit rock bottom, the people in the worst possible circumstances, the people that have been through abuse and trauma in their life. Those are the human beings most often, not always, but in a lot of cases that actually, if they use that pain as fuel and drive, they go on to become the most successful and influential people throughout history. So what if your limitation, what if your disadvantage is actually an advantage for you? What if you decide to use it as motivation, as fuel, to prove to yourself, to prove to others, to allow your pain to drive you in the direction of where you want to go? Because I know for me, I went through a lot of pain in my life, a lot of suffering, and I'm not here to have a pity party because I had a lot of advantages as well, without a doubt. The biggest advantage that I had, and I think all of us have, is we're born and alive in this day and age, which is the greatest advantage and the greatest opportunity that's ever lived. You know, we live in a much better day and age, and there's more opportunities that exist today than our grandparents did. So that's something that's an advantage that we all share. That's incredible. I don't take that for granted. It's also a huge advantage that I was born in a Western civilization. I was born in Canada. Not everybody has that advantage. You know, and there's many others that I had. You know, I had parents growing up. I had a decent education system and whatnot and circumstances. And I went through many difficult, challenging times as well, depression and suicide, being suicidal, and laziness and procrastination and shyness and a lot of limiting beliefs and a lot of fear and, you know, all of that. I'm not going to go into that, but I had a fair share of that, you know, and it was very challenging. I had to overcome all of that. And there's people that are much worse off than I was. But I believe that regardless of where you are, there's always examples of other people that have changed that circumstance. And you got to find who those people are. And you got to study them, you got to model them, you got to download their software, their beliefs, and you got to implant that in your own mind. Because your brain is a computer. And in this computer, you have an operating system. And on that operating system, you better make sure you're always upgrading it. That you're upgrading the software and the apps that are inside this computer of yours. Most people don't. Most people, they're running an operating system and they got software and apps that are 5 years old, 10 years old, a year old, 20 years old, and they haven't upgraded. You know, some of you guys are still running and operating on Windows 95, and we're here in 2020, and that software, that operating system was useful 25 years ago. You know, and you're still holding on to your operating system, your model of the world, your belief systems. You're not upgrading your mindset. You know, and many different softwares and apps, as we all know, have flaws and security issues. and you got to patch that. And if you don't, you're vulnerable to viruses, right? You're vulnerable to negativity and all the negative stuff that's happening in this world. And that's what you got to be careful of, because not only do you got to upgrade your software, and you do that, by the way, by reading books and success stories and affirmations, and I'll share with you some things with that, but investing in yourself and courses and trainings, you're always upgrading it, because we live in a different world today, and if you don't upgrade, you're left behind. You're running based on an old program, and a lot of these beliefs that we have, and limiting beliefs, are limitations that were placed on us when we were 5 years old, 10 years old, 15 years old, 20 years old. But you're a different person now today. You're a different circumstance. The reason why your life looks the same and doesn't change year after year is because you're still running and operating the old software. So you got to upgrade that. But there's viruses all around us. I mean, it's not hard to see all the negativity. I mean, that's one of the reasons I don't indulge and consume a lot of stuff on the internet. I don't go through comments and whatnot because, there's a lot of negative comments. And the reason is there's a lot of people in this world that are suffering. And they've got old blueprints and operating systems and beliefs. And you read, negative people criticizing one another and complaining about this and judging people like this. That's not helpful for your psyche. Those are, all the negative stuff that's around us in this world, you got to be careful of, because that can go into your operating system, and there's a virus, and then you go on and you're this negative, unhappy person that's now spreading that to other people. And that's really what I kind of define as a troll, or someone that goes around and does that stuff. They're just trying to infect other people with their limiting mindsets and beliefs. And that's why, most of the people on the internet, unfortunately, when you scroll through most videos and you get caught up in that, or on Facebook, whatever it is, most of those people are not happy. They're not successful. They're not free. They're not loving. They don't have the life that you'd want to have. And so you got to be very careful who you listen to and who you allow to enter into your world. That's why one of my mentors, Jim Rohn, used to always say, you got to stand guard at the door of your mind. Stand guard at the door of your mind. You got to be very careful what goes in here. Right? So if it's a lot of the negative stuff, and I mean, even if you live in a household, you got friends and go to school and there's people that are bullying you, that's having a negative effect. That's imprinting your unconscious mind. And that's going to cause damage, whether you consciously are aware of it or not. You're going to pay the price for that later down the road. So you got to get out of an environment of abuse, of hate, of negativity. And I'm not saying to limit free speech or anything like that. I think everybody has the right to it, but you got to limit what you consume. And you got to change your environment, because it's not healthy to be in an environment or be consuming a lot of things in this world that could be a virus to your psyche and infect you and have negative consequences in your life. So, there's another great story I want to share with you guys, and we'll dive into your questions soon. I want to thank you guys just for listening to my rant, and hopefully you're getting some benefit. And if you are, please give this video a thumbs up. Thumbs up is kind of the equivalent to, if I was speaking to you right now, I could see your face, and you'd give me a thumbs up or clap at something I'd say. It's an acknowledgement that I think what I'm sharing is something that's reaching you and impacting your life. One of my favorite stories is a man named W. Mitchell. And I remember watching some interviews of this man. Here's a man who was driving his motorcycle, and he lost control. He actually crashed the motorcycle into a laundry truck, and the motorcycle caught on fire, and 3/4 of his body was burned. Pretty horrific. And he's hospitalized over it, and it was a pretty dramatic thing to go through in his life. And he ended up having this huge fear of fire, and rightly so. And he decided, I'm going to conquer this fear by starting my own wood-burning fireplace company. So he started this company in the state of Vermont. He ended up becoming a multi-millionaire. He ended up, I think, selling the company at one point, I forget when, but for $65 million, around that amount. Pretty incredible. The story doesn't end there. One day he was flying an airplane because he was a pilot, and he failed to do his checklist. And his airplane went down, and he survived, but now he's paralyzed from the waist down. So here's a man in the hospital yet again. Everyone's freaking out. His family and friends are freaking out about this, and he seemed to be happy though. And so they thought, why is he so happy? They must be giving him some pretty good drugs. And they, turns out they couldn't give him drugs because of the circumstance that he was in. And when you asked his mom, I think in this interview, they said, well, I just think he doesn't know how bad it really is, And so when you ask W. Mitchell in this interview today, after what he's been through, he says, I guess, you ask him, why are you so happy? He's like, well, I still haven't realized how bad it is. And so what happened from there, though, the interview was like, what were you focused on at that stage? I mean, what kind of meaning were you creating at that stage of your life when you're in the hospital? And he said, well, there's this really attractive nurse, and I was trying to figure out how I'm going to get a date with her. So here's a guy burned beyond recognition, paralyzed from the waist down. They had to cut off his toes and sew them onto his fingers so he'd have something to grab something onto with. And 2 years later, he ended up marrying that woman. And he ended up going on, soon after that, he ended up recovering and whatnot, but he ended up going on to run for governor. And he went door-to-door campaigning, wore a button that says, "Send me to the governor's mansion, and I won't just be another pretty face." Like, here's a guy that has every reason and excuse to justify, to give up in life, to not go for it, to not pursue your goals and dreams. And he decided not to. And you can look him up, go search for W. Mitchell. You can research human beings like Gerald Coffey, who is a POW, a prisoner of war during the Vietnam War, and his airplane got shot down, and he was captured, I think, for a few years. He was locked up in this little cell. And, when you ask him about that time through interviews, I remember learning about this guy, he says, it was one of the best times of my life. Because even though I was locked up, every day I got closer to God. Every day I did sit-ups and push-ups, and I got stronger mentally and emotionally. I learned how to tap code and communicate with other prisoners in other cells. And he's like, it was the best thing that ever happened to me in my life, because now today nothing bothers him. I mean, once he was a POW locked up and went through the torture and the abuse and the suffering he went through, most things that bother people today in society, it's like he's like, I can't even believe people get upset about the stupidest things, because it created a mass contrast to really what suffering is, and he doesn't complain about anything in his life. So listen, I can go on and on and on and on and on, but you got to understand, my friends, if you want to change your life, there are no limitations. The limitations we only have are self-imposed, the limits of our mind, and we create them. We create those limitations. And even though your limitations, no matter what it is, I don't have enough money, I'm not good enough, I've never built a business before, I've never been successful, I don't have the right education, I'm too old, I'm too young, I'm a man, I'm a woman, I live in this country, this is my ethnicity. Whatever your story is, it's made up in your head. And even though you might justify it, and it might even be legitimate in some ways, it's not the reason why you don't have what you want. One of my favorite quotes from Tony Robbins, he says, the only thing that stops you from getting what you want in your life is a story that you keep telling yourself about why you don't have it. I'll say that again. The only thing that's stopping you from what you want in your life is a story that you keep telling yourself about why you don't have it. And our story, going very back to what I said earlier at the beginning of this, is just your way to protect yourself, to avoid feeling like you're not enough. Because you can use it as a reason to blame and say, the reason why I'm not successful, the reason why I don't have the life I want is because I'm too old, I'm too young, I'm too fat, I don't have enough money, I didn't have the education, I don't have the technology, I didn't have the experience. And you use and create something outside of yourself as a reason, a story to justify why you don't have the life you want. Because it's so much easier to do that, to instead and look at yourself in the mirror and say, you know what, no, in spite of that, I can rise above it. And it might be challenging, it might be hard, but I know it's possible because this person did it, and that person did it, and that person did it, and that person did it, and countless people throughout history have demonstrated what's possible, the unlimited possibilities of the human spirit. The moment you have the courage and the faith to tap into that, to claim your power, because we all have the power. We have to awaken the giant within. You know, one of my favorite books by Tony Robbins, right? He calls it Awaken the Giant Within, because we all have a sleeping giant within us. And we have to unleash that. You have to awaken that. And you can't sell yourself short. And you've got to find the role models, the examples of other people. I mean, we're so blessed today, guys, because we live in a world where there's other people that have gone before us that have achieved incredible things. Successful people, people that have transformed their body, people that have transformed their relationship, people that have shared and understood incredible wisdoms and truths throughout history and humanity. And these other human beings, they had the generosity and the abundance mentality to write a book. Whether that's Socrates or Aristotle or Plato, or whether it's the authors who wrote the Bible or any spiritual text, to Sam Walton, who founded Walmart. and wrote Made in America before he passed away as his biography, to countless examples of human beings that were willing to pay it forward. And as a result, we all get to benefit from it. And today, the modern version is there's YouTubers like me and many others. And what if myself, or what if Thomas Edison, or what if Andrew Carnegie, or what if, Elon Musk, or Bill Gates, or Oprah Winfrey, or Mother Teresa, or Nelson Mandela, or Martin Luther King, what if all these human beings, with what they discovered and benefited from, or going back to, going back to the Bible and other spiritual, what if they decided not to share? What if they decided just to keep, like some people, for example, they comment on YouTube, oh, if you're successful and why would you share this? Why would you share the secrets of success or this information? Why wouldn't you just keep it all to yourself and be in a scarcity mentality and hoard it all for you? Like, that doesn't make any sense. Well, if that was the case, then nobody would benefit and society would not get better, right? So thank God we have human beings that have the courage to put themselves out there and to share. And it's not necessarily for everybody, of course, but there's people that have benefited tremendously from all this knowledge, collective knowledge and wisdom and experience that's been passed on, and we get to be the recipients of it. How cool is that? We get to benefit. How incredible is that, guys? Take advantage of it. Go to the library, go to Amazon, buy books, read books, watch videos, get courses. Like there's so much that your life can change as a result of everything that's available for you. Take advantage of it. You can conquer these limitations and fear. Like any problem you have in your life, you can overcome. You can overcome. You can figure it out. You can solve it. And it's because all these people have shared the solutions. If you want to build a business, it's so much easier to build a business than it's ever been before. If you want to sell on Amazon, it's like, here's the course, go through the course, apply what you're learning, take action with it, and you can build a business. You don't have to figure it out and try to, all these things. If you have a binge eating disorder or problem, there's books and resources. And I found solutions when I had a binge eating disorder, and I learned from other people, and that helped me overcome it. When I was shy, and if you might be shy, there's books and resources that can help you with that. If you have any addiction, whether it's alcohol, whether it's drugs or pornography, there's other people that have written books, and they've created communities today, and they've created courses and softwares. Like there's the 12 steps. There's so much available for you if you tap into it and you take advantage of it. So take advantage of everything, because your life and this life that you've been given, everything is up for grabs as far as I'm concerned. Everything is up for grabs. You've got access in the palm of your hand, or the computer that you're watching on right now, one of the most powerful devices in the world. You have access to information and knowledge. Use it. Don't waste your life. Don't settle in your life. Because then you're going to get to the end of your life thinking, I woulda, coulda, shoulda. Right now, there's incredible opportunities. Right now, I've shared building a business on Amazon, one of the best opportunities that I can't even believe that there's people that aren't taking advantage of opportunities that are available for them. And I'm here trying to passionately share things with you guys. And some people I got to shake and come on, look what's available for you in your life. It's so much easier in so many cases than it ever has been before in history. And you just have so much at your disposal today that you can create whatever kind of life you want. I really believe that. You absolutely can, but you got to upgrade your software, your operating system. Okay? If you got an old one that's obsolete, you better make sure you're upgrading it constantly and staying on the cutting edge of technology. If you don't, you get left behind. You're trying to get through life. It's like you're trying to, use this old computer from 20 years ago. You're not going to be that efficient and get much out of it in this world of what's available today. You get so much more benefit when you upgrade your software and your hardware. You get more out of it. So take advantage of it, guys. And it creates pain in me when I see people that settle for a life that's less than what they can really create, and they're living in suffering, and they don't need to. You don't need to have suffering in your life, and there's so much available for you, but you just got to tap into your drive. One of my favorite quotes is that change is never a matter of ability. It's always a matter of motivation, because we all have the ability. We all can find ways to change any aspect of our life. We're all capable of so much. If you don't know English, you can learn it. If you don't know how to write, you're not a good writer, you can learn how to write. If you don't know how to speak in public, you're not good at it, you can improve that. You can learn how to speak in public. If you don't know how to use a computer, you can learn how to use a computer. If you don't know how to edit videos, you can learn how to edit videos. If you don't know how to do anything, you can. We're capable of so much. So your change and your progress and your success in life is never a matter of ability, because you and I have the ability. It's a matter of motivation. Motivation is, how bad do you want it? Do you want it bad enough? Are you willing to pay the price? Right? Are you willing to sacrifice for it? Are you willing to do whatever it takes? Not everybody is, and that's okay. That's okay. If you want something different, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with having a life where you're content and satisfied, but I assume most people that are here that want more from their life, they're not content, and you want to step up because you're not satisfied with the quality of life that you have right now, or you are, but you just want to take it even further. There's nothing wrong with that. You got to find what's right for you and what do you want. So you got to identify, going back to what I shared at the beginning, you got to identify, what do you want? Then you got to figure out what's going to get you there. What are the beliefs that I need to take on that will support me in creating this life that I want? And you got to do an inventory. You got to do an inventory of your mindset and your beliefs. The most important thing to change your life is to have awareness. So you got to catch yourself. When you have a limiting belief, a story that comes up that's preventing you from moving forward, you got to catch yourself and look at that and say, is that serving me in my life? Is that empowering me? Is it useful? Is that a positive belief or is it a negative belief? Is it empowering or is it disempowering? So you might say to yourself, for example, I don't have money. I don't have money in my life. Okay, that might be true. That might be legitimate. But by saying over and over again, I don't have money, I don't have money, I can't afford it, I can't afford it. Is that really empowering you in your life? Is that serving you? Is that helping you create more wealth and more abundance in your life? Or is it holding you back and preventing you from taking any action? And if it's limiting you in your life, then maybe you should change it. Maybe you got to change that belief and upgrade it to a new belief, a new software, a new app that says, I make the money for whatever I'm committed to. Maybe that's a belief that can empower you a lot more than just saying, I can't do something. You know, you can say, I can't, and you say that again and again in your life, and then, yeah, you're not going to take any action. Because here's the thing. Your beliefs determine your actions create your results. Your beliefs determine your actions create results. Whatever results that you have right now in your life, if you don't like how much money is in the bank, if you don't like the relationship you're in, you don't like if you're single and alone, if you're depressed, if you've got suffering in your life, that's the result of your life. That is often the result, not entirely, but a big portion of it based on your actions. There are certain things you're doing, your lifestyle most often is contributing to that. And your actions and what you do and don't do is determined by your belief systems. So a lot of people, they try to change their actions or the results, but they realize you got to change your beliefs first. And you got to look at your beliefs and upgrade them with more empowering beliefs. If you have a belief that's limiting you, then let's get rid of that and let's create a new empowering belief that can serve and empower you instead. I remember for me, when I was younger, when I was a kid, I didn't have a strong identity. I didn't know who I was. I didn't have strong beliefs or any confidence in myself. And so I got made fun of. Other kids made fun of me and they teased me. They said, you're not good enough, you're stupid, you're ugly. And I just accepted their beliefs. And that's what I believed about myself. I was ugly and I was stupid, I wasn't good enough. Now, even though that could be justified and even though that might be true, which again, there's no absolute truth, only interpretations, an endless amount, but for me, it was true and it was real because I was believing it. It wasn't until I decided, no, that's not who I am. I get to decide who I am. I get to dictate who I am and the beliefs I have for myself. So instead, is it helpful for me to believe that I'm ugly? Of course not. If I believe that I'm ugly, what actions will that lead to? Well, that will lead to no actions in approaching the opposite sex. It will lead to low self-esteem and depression. And the result from that is I'll probably be alone for the rest of my life because I believe I'm ugly. And I'll never like looking at myself in the mirror, and that's just not empowering to me in my life. Even though everyone else might say that you're ugly, I don't care. I get to decide what I believe, not everybody else. So I'm going to interpret it in a different way, and I'm going to create a belief that says that I'm sexy, or that I'm confident, or that I'm good looking. And you know what I found? When you actually shift that belief and you say that to yourself, and you believe that you're good looking and that you're attractive, you start to behave differently. Because your belief determines your action. So all of a sudden, when you believe that you're attractive, You know, you carry yourself in a different way. You have different body language. You have better eye contact. You have this aura and charisma about yourself. And as a result of that, you end up attracting people to you in your life. People treat you differently based on how you treat yourself and whatever you believe about yourself. And so when I shifted my belief and I believed that I was attractive, which is more useful, I ended up attracting results that reinforce that positive belief. If you believe that you're ugly and you get rejected and you get turned down and people say that, now you're just reinforcing the belief that you're ugly and you're unattractive, which leads to the same result. So it's a pretty fascinating thing. Whenever we believe, it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. You end up attracting what you believe. It keeps showing up time and time again in your life. And that's why it's incredibly important to shift it. And one of my favorite ways of doing that, by the way, I'll share with you guys, is I love coming across empowering belief systems. So when I study success and the greatest people throughout history, I'm always looking for quotes or belief systems that make them great. Because a quote is really just a glimpse into someone's unconscious mind. It's basically an expression of their belief. And so when I find a quote from Martin Luther King or Gandhi or whoever it might be, Nelson Mandela, I'm like, wow, that's their belief system. That's an app or software in their operating system, in their computer. I want to take that and upload that myself. So what I do is I write it down on a card, like on a flash card. And I write it down and I speak it out loud. And I upgrade it and I install the belief into my computer. So here's one, and I got stacks of these guys, stacks of them. It's insane how many I have. Faith is taking the first step even when you don't see the whole staircase. Wow. Imagine if you believed that. If you believed in faith and taking the first step even when you don't see the whole staircase. By taking on this belief, what actions will that lead to you in your life and what results will you be able to create as a result of it? It's a pretty empowering belief. You might want to take that on. Here's an affirmation I wrote down. I let go of the need to please people, to people please. Yeah, that's a great belief system, to not have that need to always please people. Here's a great one that I wrote down. Beginning today, what serves me stays, what fails me goes. Definitely related to what we're talking about here. Here's one from Gandhi. You must not lose faith in humanity. Humanity is an ocean. If a few drops of the ocean are dirty, it does not become dirty. Empowering belief system, amazing. I mean, imagine if you shift that belief of humanity. It changes how you treat the world and how you perceive the world, how you interpret everything. Here's one from Gandhi. First they ignore you, then they laugh at you, then they fight you, then you win. Where there is love, there is life. Live as if you were to die tomorrow. Learn as if you were to live forever. Not trying is the ultimate failure. I'll just go through a few. Success without fulfillment is failure. That's a great belief, because if you really believe this, you're going to pursue fulfillment more than just success. If you believe that just having success without fulfillment is failure. It always seems impossible until it's done. Nelson Mandela. Which has been true. I mean, there's many things today that we say are impossible, but it just means that someone hasn't done it yet. Most things today, like, do you not think that 10 years from now, 20, 30, 50, 100 years, 1,000 years from now, there's going to be things that are now possible that aren't possible today, but they're only possible because people didn't believe in the limitation of it. So listen, guys, I can go on and on and on. I want to turn my attention to the questions that you guys have, because I've been ranting long enough, and hopefully you guys get it. Hopefully you guys really get and understand that there's no limitations. Whatever you believe is true for you, whether it's based on actuality or not. And you have the choice. Does this serve me? Is this useful for me in my life? If it is, great, take on that belief. If it's useful for you and other people, even better. But if the belief system is disempowering you and holding you back in your life, then let it go. Be willing to let it go and replace it with a new empowering belief. And by doing so, you change your actions, you change your results, and your entire life changes. So with that being said, let's dive into some questions, guys. Thank you for your patience, and hopefully you guys enjoyed that rant. I'm not sure how long I was talking for, but I did warn you guys, I do like to go deep and not stay at the surface. Okay. Can you talk about the worst outcomes of comparing yourself to other people who you think are better than you? Well, so first of all, where does comparison come from? Why do we compare ourselves to other people? Well, if you study human needs psychology, which is something that Tony Robbins teaches and talks about, which I recommend, we all have 6 human needs. We have a need for certainty, for a sense of security in our lives. We have a need for uncertainty, variety, excitement, surprise. We have a need for significance, to feel special and unique. We have the need for connection and love, which, by the way, most people, they settle for connection in life because love's too scary. Love means you have to be more vulnerable, you're more susceptible to being hurt. We have the need for growth, and we have the need for contribution. Now, we all value these needs. These are inherent needs as part of our personality. However, we all value them differently. Okay, there's a hierarchy. So for example, one person might value significance more than love, right? So if you value significance more than love, the need to be special and unique, then you don't really experience love in your life until you first feel significant. So for example, a good example of this would be someone like Donald Trump. Donald Trump is very significant driven. Even before he was president, he had to have his name plastered on a building. And he's obviously a big promoter, and he's very successful at that, and there's nothing wrong with that, but he's very driven by significance. And so that's a driving force for him in his life. And when you prioritize significance over some of the other needs, the challenge and the downside when you value it so much is that you're never really satisfied and happy in your life because it's never enough. And there's always more, there's always another level, because when you're craving significance, you're competing with everybody else, which, by the way, the most successful people in the world are hyper-competitive people that overvalue significance. They're not even after money. They have more than enough money. They're competing in the dominance hierarchy. So they're trying to raise their level, their hierarchy and their status in society, and for them, they want to be the best. They want to be the most significant. But it's a losing battle because you never can be, right? You never can be. And you're always comparing yourself to other people. And there's always someone further than you and better than you or younger than you or more attractive than you. So it's basically a way that significance is very powerful and useful for creating a lot of success, but it's horrible for fulfillment because it guarantees that you're never fulfilled. So, obviously someone that values love and connection, that's someone that doesn't even really care about success as much. They care about socializing and people, and their intention and their drive first is to fulfill their need of love. And so they feel love and they give love regardless of whether or not they feel significant. They can feel insignificant and still give their love. Someone that values significance over love is they have to feel a sense of significance. Another great example of this is certainty in love. So a lot of people, for example, and by the way, in the Western society, the top 2 needs that human beings overvalue is significance and certainty. Certainty also screws you as well, because to be totally certain, you have to have a sense of control. So you have to have a sense of control of your life, your finances. Anytime you feel uncertainty, out of control, whether it's the economy, whether it's coronavirus, people that overvalue certainty are freaked out during times like this. They over-worry because they overvalue certainty. Now, the problem is if you value certainty before love, then you only give your love to other people when you feel certain. So if you're in a relationship, you're not going to open your heart to someone and really give your love to them and surrender to them fully and allow them to, you open your heart to them until you feel totally certain. And if you've been through a lot of pain, then your certainty is a way to protect yourself so that you don't get hurt. But the problem is when you feel uncertain, then you withhold your love as well. So someone that values love over certainty, even if they're uncertain, they still love no matter what. And that's a huge distinction right there. That's a different world of someone that has an extraordinary relationship that even if they're hurt, even if there's uncertainty in their life, their relationship, they still love because they value that more than their certainty or more than their significance. Very powerful. So that's like an hour-long conversation, and Tony Robbins is the best person to learn when it comes to this. But comparing yourself basically means that you're overvaluing significance in your life. You're overvaluing it, and that's a driving force of your life. And it can be useful because comparing yourself can actually create drive and motivation for you to become more successful, but you're screwing yourself long-term because you're not going to be fulfilled. And so you have to let go and understand that who cares if someone's better than you? Better than you is only a perception and interpretation. And you know what I found is that there's a lot of people out there, like you got to define what is your life that you want on your terms. and makes you happy in your life. Like if you're, like there's countless people, so you guys got to know this. A lot of people don't know this. You really got to know this, because I know a lot of successful people, and I'm not saying that because I'm like a cool, popular person. I'm saying it because I've been exposed, truthfully, to a lot of successful people that are friends. I go to seminars, I meet, I've interviewed some incredibly successful millionaires, multimillionaires. I've even met billionaires. Most of them, you would not want to have their life. Okay, I can tell that to you honestly, because most people that people look up to in society, because they've bought into society's belief that success is having materialistic things or having a lot of money or having a car or whatever it is, they buy into that. That's what's sold and marketed to you. That's not success. There's many people that have that, but they're unhappy. They have shitty relationships. They're depressed. They're suicidal. They don't have, they are going through divorces and whatnot. They don't have a good relationship with their kids. They don't have a spiritual connection with God. They're overweight and they don't have any physical vitality. Like, is that really who you're comparing yourself to? Someone that sacrificed everything else so that they can like have these nice things, and you think actually that they're better than you because they have that and you don't? Like, are you serious? Really? Like, do you not realize that real wealth has nothing to do with that? Real wealth is when you have an amazing spiritual connection, when you have a great relationship, when you're happy and fulfilled. Like, that is real wealth. Your health is your wealth. That's way more valuable, way more valuable than having like a lot of money. Like, you guys really got to know that. And that's why for me, I'm so passionate about life mastery. And it's crazy. I remember meeting a billionaire. I went for this guy for lunch and I was like, I just like I just felt so much better about myself in a way, just because I saw this person who's a billionaire and everybody respected him because of that. And I was like, that's not the life that I want, because this guy was overweight, he had health challenges, he'd gone through multiple divorces. I'm like, okay, yeah, you're a billionaire and that's great, it's awesome. That's, I can be inspired from this element of your life, but I'm not comparing myself to you. And I value personally really what I define as life and success on my terms. So I think you got to get clear, what kind of life do you want to live and what kind of terms are those, and not compare yourself to anyone else, and love yourself and your life and create it. Create a life that you're proud of, not based on what everyone else is doing. And don't let money and anything external define you, because none of that really contributes to your fulfillment much anyways. Fulfillment and real wealth is going to come from your psychology and the meaning that you create in your life. Okay. Love your channel. You give new perspectives and you seem really friendly. Thank you. What is your tips to grow confidence in yourself? What do you do what do you do when feeling you want more friends but uncomfortable, and how? Well, I believe that you attract what you are, and so the more that, if you're a dramatic person, negative, you complain all the time, then sure enough, you end up attracting a lot more of that in your life, right? You attract people that are also full of drama, and that's why you see a lot of, people that things just always end up being that way for them. On the other hand, if you become a more positive person, a more happy person, a more optimistic person, just a better quality person, I think you end up attracting people that are like you, that are like that. So I think number one, really working on improving yourself. And in terms of confidence, if I've got so much information on this on my YouTube channel already, but one of my favorite go-tos and most important things I do in my life is a morning ritual. So I look at a morning ritual not as what society normally does in the morning. Most of society, their morning rituals, they wake up, they hit the snooze, they're grumpy and they're stressed first thing in the morning, and they want to sleep a little bit longer, right? And a lot of people, when they wake up, they check the news and they check social media and they check their inbox, and they're stressed and they're reactive already to everything else, and they need their coffee in the morning to give themselves a boost, and they eat an unhealthy breakfast, whether it's donuts or cereal or waffles and pancakes, whatever it might be. And they're not really taking care of themselves to be at their best. They're reactive throughout the day. And so what I decided a long time ago, one of the first things I did that changed my life, and still do to this day, is I realized that the first hour in the morning is time for me. And that's time before I give it to anyone else, before I check social media, before I check the news, before I check any of that. I got to make sure, number one, I'm cultivating the most important relationship in my life, which is the relationship with me and my relationship with my Creator. So what I do is I take care of me. I take care of me. And when you do that, it gives you a tremendous amount of confidence. You want to make sure you start the day at level 10, the best version of yourself. So things that I do in the morning is I play music and I dance and I sing and I move my body in ways that just allow me to get out of my head and just to be free and to be joyful. I do an attitude of gratitude, and I actually journal out 10 things that I'm grateful for every single day to appreciate all the good that's already in my life. Because if you don't already appreciate all the good in your life, then you're not going to end up attracting more. And even if you do attract more, you're not going to appreciate it. So you first got to appreciate everything you already have in your life. And by doing so, you attract more good into your life as well. You know, I like to take care of my body. So one of the things that I do right now is I go downstairs in my building and I play basketball. And I love basketball, and I listen to music. Sometimes I listen to some positive audio programs, and I'm feeding my mind, but I'm getting a good sweat in and exercising and doing something I enjoy. And just the physical act of moving and engaging my body in that way is changing my physiology, and it's changing how I feel about myself. You know, it's giving me more confidence in myself. I like to read every morning. I like to read a good book, at least 10 pages, because 10 pages of a good book every day, you do that for 30 days, that's 300 pages, that's one book a month, that's 12 books a year. So I feed my mind with positivity, with other inspirational role models or belief systems or an area of my life that I really want to improve and master. I'm feeding that in my mind so that I can take on their belief system, and I'm always upgrading my software. To my affirmations, right? And I say out loud certain affirmations, and some of them I say, you know, if I want to be more confident, I am confident. I am confident. I'll speak it out loud with emotion and confidence and with my physiology and with every part of my being, every cell, every part of my body. I will speak that out loud. I'll speak it in a confident voice. I'll speak it with my shoulders back. I'll speak it breathing fully. And I'll condition that belief system in my mind. You do that every day for 30 days, you'll be a different person. Because whatever you attach I am to is what you become. If you say, I am depressed, I am depressed, I am depressed, or I am not good enough, I am a loser, I am a loser, I am fat, I am fat, I am fat, you become that. If you say, I am confident, I am happy, I am grateful, I am joyful, I am loving, I am successful, you become that. So be careful, whatever you attach the words I am to, you will become in your life. Okay, and that will dictate your actions and your results that you manifest in your life. So there's many things that I do like that. I meditate and calm my mind. All of those things contribute to my confidence in my being. And when you're at level 10 and you're happy and you feel good about yourself every single day, do you not think that your day is changed now from that point forward? Do you not think that that colors your day in a different way, that as challenges arise and show up every single day, that you react to them very differently? You know, you just step up into them and they don't affect you as much. Do you not think that when you feel great every day, that changes your interactions with other people and who you attract, that people are attracted to you because your state of being is infectious and contagious, that people want to be around that? You know, if people don't want to be around you, you got to look at yourself, right? You got to look at yourself and the energy and what you're putting out there, you know, and if you become an attractive, charismatic person, people are attracted to that energy. So there's many things I could share. I got a whole course called Morning Ritual Mastery. If you go to www.morningritualmastery.com, get that program. It's really inexpensive, and create a morning ritual from it, because that program is one of the fundamental things that I do in my life is a morning ritual, and most people don't even have one, and they don't even know about this. And it's like the 101 of achievement. It's like one of the most basic things I can give you to do, but it's one of those things that can yield the biggest results in your life. Okay. Dive into some more questions. I'll try to be a little bit quicker with my answers, guys. I know there's a lot of questions. I'm just trying to be thorough in what I'm sharing with you, but I know I want to try to answer a lot for you. Starting from point of little, how would you start improving your life first? Get books, start a morning ritual. Get books, feed your mind, create a morning ritual, give yourself that 1 hour in the morning. If you've got to wake up earlier, read, exercise, make a list of things that would make your life better, and do that. Do that. And if every day you can get a little bit better and improve yourself just 0.0001% every single day, then over time your life transforms. And that's what I believe in, is just little small incremental improvements over time, compounds, and your life a year from now, 5, 10 years, you're in a different destination in your life. So how to actually believe and have faith in what you say for life results? Well, you might have to clarify that question a little bit. You shift your beliefs through conditioning, because most of what you believe right now has been conditioned. Most of the beliefs you have are not your beliefs. They're beliefs that you've inherited from your parents, your peers, your teachers, and people around your environment. You've taken on their belief system. They're not really your beliefs. That's why I'm more of a believer in the individual than identity politics or ideologies and whatnot, because I think oftentimes people just buy into an ideology, and I think there's useful beliefs from different groups and identities and belief systems that you got to formulate your own. So once you know what your beliefs are, you're aware of the limiting ones, and every day you just say them out loud again and again and again, and you condition these new empowering beliefs. Now here's the thing, here's the interesting thing, the difference between a pessimist and an optimist. People that are pessimistic, there have been studies and research that's been done on this, a great book that was actually written on the subject. It's called Learned Optimism. Okay, Learned Optimism, you might want to pick that up. People that are pessimistic, they are more accurate. Okay, they're more accurate in how they perceive things in life. They're more accurate, but they're less successful and they're less happy. People that are optimists, on the other hand, people that see the best in things, they look at an event differently than a pessimist. A pessimist might look for the worst in things. They might look for the negative side of things. The optimist is going to look at the bright side. They're going to look at things in a positive light. Now, people that are optimistic, they're less accurate about things because they see things better than it is, but they are more happy and they're more successful. So here's an important distinction. Do you want to be a pessimist and be right and be more accurate about things and look at more and have a better understanding of reality? Or would you rather be an optimist, and even though you're less accurate, you're more happy and more successful? Because to be both, I believe a pessimist sees things as it is, but often sees it worse than it is. An optimist can see things as it is, but sees things better than it is. I think it's important for human beings to see things better than it is. If you don't see it better than it is, then you're not creating an empowering meaning, and you're not creating a compelling future. So, there's a common question, or a common question that you might come up or might have heard of in relationships. If you are in a relationship, okay, if you're in a relationship with a man or a woman, inevitably you're going to get into an argument. You're going to have a difference of beliefs and difference of opinions. You're going to fight over who's right and who's wrong. Now, you got to ask yourself, do you want to be right or do you want to be happy? Do you want to be right or do you want to be in love? And the person that can let go of their ego and their need to be right is the person that is going to be the more happy and more in love. So if you're fighting with someone and you're fighting with your partner or your spouse and you're like, no, this is how it should be, or no, they're saying, no, this is how it should be, and you're both justified in what you believe, the person that can finally say, listen, I don't give a shit who's right. You're right. Okay, I don't care. Like, we're on the same team. It doesn't make sense. Why are we fighting and arguing about something that's so meaningless, and it's just creating division? It's separating us. If you want to be right, like, listen, you're right and I'm wrong and I'm sorry. I apologize because I shouldn't have gotten riled up. I shouldn't have got my ego get in the way and this need to be right when it's so silly. I shouldn't have raised my voice. I shouldn't have made you feel wrong, and maybe should instead understand to be more compassionate and let go of that and see things from your perspective, to understand your world and your opinion and where you're coming from, and appreciate that and respect that perhaps. And if this is what you really want, I'm willing to let go of my ego, the need to be right, so that you can be happy, because it's in my best self-interest. When you're happy, I'm going to be happier and benefit from it. That's a more mature, emotionally and spiritually mature way to deal with things in life, rather than being closed-minded and attached to your ego of always having to be right. I don't care about being right. I want to be happy. I want to be free. I want to be in love. And I don't know about you, but if you want that, you're going to decide which one you're going to want. So that's a really important question you want to ask yourself. They say the secret to a great relationship is two good forgivers. Two people that have the ability to forgive one another. That's a very powerful, important attribute to have, because if you're holding on to resentment and pain and negativity in your relationship, then you're only punishing yourself as you punish the other person, right? You notice that? When you think you're punishing the other person, you're punishing yourself. You're punishing yourself. Nelson Mandela had the famous quote, resentment is like you drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. It's crazy. It's crazy. So I don't care necessarily about being accurate. I care about being happy, and that's why when I say it, take on beliefs that serve and empower you, and they're useful to you and they're useful to others. If you can do that, you're going to have a much better quality of life, and let go of your ego and the need to always be right and to be in control. Let that go. I'd much rather you be happy and more fulfilled. And understand, in life, it's in your best self-interest for other people in your life to be happy and to be free. Even your worst enemy, you want to pray for your enemy. That's why, for example, I love such spiritual texts such as the Bible, and they say, treat your neighbor as you would yourself, and to pray and love your neighbor, and to even your enemy and the people that are, it's unjust what they did, because it's in your best self-interest too. Like your biggest critic, your biggest hater, the people that don't like you, you want them to be happy, because when they're happy, the world is better, and you get a benefit from being in a happier and better world. Even Buddha. In Buddhism, Buddha believed that life is suffering, and what creates suffering is our mind. And Buddha achieved a state of nirvana, enlightenment, ecstasy, bliss. But he rejected it because he realized that he needed to go out and to help and spread to other people, because in doing so, it was in his best self-interest and the best interest of the world to raise consciousness and to help people and to get out of their suffering. So understand that this whole idea of selfish, it's in my best self-interest that you guys are happy, that you guys are more successful, that you guys are more free, that you guys are better off in your lives. That's what I want. That's one of the reasons why I do what I do, because the better you are in your life, the better world that we live in. There's a ripple effect that when you throw a stone in a pond, it doesn't end just there. There's a ripple effect that affects the entire pond. And every individual that I can share something positive to, and if you become more free and you overcome your limitations and you become a more conscious person in this world, it's in my best self-interest, because that benefits the world that I live in, right? So that's how I think. That's an abundance mentality that I think we all need to shift and take on in our lives. And so I digress. Let's dive into another question. How did you raise your standards to get to where you are today? You decide what your standard is and you live up to it. You do the best you can to set this new standard for yourself, whether it's I'm going to do my morning ritual every single morning or 5 days a week, or I'm going to set a standard to be in this physical condition or this amount of money. But understand that sometimes raising your standards is a process. So sometimes you gotta raise the bar a little bit. You don't need to go so drastic if you've never, because what's more important than where the standard is that you're consistent with it. So, for example, if you want to hit a target and you have a gun or you have a pistol and you've never shot a gun before, you don't set the standard, you don't set the target a mile away. Because if you never shot a gun before, you're going to try to hit it and you're going to miss. When you miss again and again and again on your goals, your standards, your expectations of yourself, then you're going to get disappointed. You're going to create pain from that, and most often create a meaning that you're not good enough and you're a failure. You're going to give up, and you're going to give up on shooting a pistol. So instead what you do is you set a standard that's a bit further than where you are, okay? But it's achievable. It's a standard that you know that you can hit. So for example, if it's too much for you to go to the gym every day and you've never gone to the gym, just say to yourself, I'm going to go to the gym once a week. Something that's achievable so you can set yourself up for success. You set that as your standard, right? That's almost like you have the gun, but you're setting the target just like a few feet away. So you know you can hit the bullseye. If you miss and you can't even go to the gym once a week, then you bring that target even closer to yourself and say, okay, I'm gonna go to the gym once every 2 weeks. You gotta set yourself up for success, and once you're consistent with that and you feel good and you reinforce it, you get momentum, then you pull back the target. So for me, I've been doing this self-development since I was 17 years old. I'm 34 years old today. Okay, so I've been doing this for a long time, but I didn't start where I am now. So where I am now in my life, I've been progressively working towards this for a long time. And so I've got very high standards, and they're not even standards at this point. They're just who I am. They're my natural way of being because I've conditioned it. It's my habits now. It's something I don't think about. It's part of who I am. And you got to start small, and you slowly push it back, and you challenge yourself, and you grow, and you eventually become a limitless person, I guess you could say. And I'm not that I am. I'm always trying to improve myself and grow, because there's still so much that I can improve and tap more into my potential. But it's just a never-ending process of mastery in your life and trying to be the best you can. Okay. What do you do when you feel lost and complacent as an entrepreneur? Okay, well, Jordan, first of all, complacency, get around people that are further ahead than you. When you get around people that are further ahead than you, it will motivate you, it will inspire you. And really what you need is you need a vision. You need a compelling future, because maybe you've achieved the vision that you have right now, or you don't have one that really excites you. You got to find what that is, because when you find something you really want and you obsess over it, then that's going to unleash your driving force. That's going to create the drive, the ambition, the why and the purpose in what you're doing. And you got to maybe find at this stage of your life, what do you want? You said you're lost. Like, what do you want? And sometimes as an entrepreneur, what you want changes as you go. Like for me, when I first started entrepreneurship, I just wanted to get out of pain. I was desperate. I was living on my friend's couch. I was depressed. I hated my life and I hated everything, about it. And so I just wanted to get out of pain, and I wanted to make money so that I could pay my bills to support myself and stop living on my friend's couch. That was my why. And then my why became, I don't want to work. So I want to make enough money so that I have passive income coming in and I could be free. Once you achieve that, then you're like, well, now I'm free, but now I'm bored and I'm lost. I don't really know what I want to do, and I have money. So at that stage of my life, I was like, well, what would my passion be? What would excite me? And I was like, I really love self-development and I love to learn. And maybe if I share what I learned on YouTube or share it on a blog, maybe that could turn into something, or maybe it's just a way that I could express myself in a fun way. So I started Project Life Mastery. And it just grew from there. Then, I wanted to become a millionaire, and I achieved that. And then I was like, I want to become a multi-billionaire, and I achieved that. And I was like, well, I want to build schools and help kids in Africa and in India and many different parts of the world to make a difference. And I started doing that. And then I was like, what's a new purpose? I'm always trying to find what it is. Money is not going to motivate you forever. Money is just like a good enough motivator to a certain level. At a certain point, once you make enough money, more money doesn't change your lifestyle. More money just means more money in real estate and stocks in your bank that you're never going to touch, that one day your kids are going to inherit. Or one day, you're going to enjoy it maybe when you retire one day. But once you really have everything you want financially, you got to find a new vision and a new purpose and a new why. So that's part of the process you go through, Jordan, is that you just got to try to get clarity. And sometimes it's taking a break. Like for me, later, probably in August, I'm going to take a bit of a break from my business and just get perspective and altitude on it. So I'll probably be less on YouTube and not be as active on many things. I'll take a break, and then I'll come back with a new vision, a new updated purpose for my life and what I want to accomplish. Okay. Let's dive into some more questions here, guys. Great questions so far. Thank you. Christopher says, your best advice to a 19-year-old looking to build financial wealth in the future. So Christopher, I actually have a great video that I filmed, I think, in Bolivia that shares advice for those that are 20 years old. So that's a video on my channel that you can find. But honestly, when you're 19 years old, understand that you're nothing but potential. Okay, you're in a great position in your life. When you're 19 years old, like, you've got your whole life ahead of you. So the more work that you do on yourself now, the more that your future self is going to benefit for it. Like, for example, I am so grateful that my 17-year-old Stefan and 18-year-old Stefan and 19-year-old and 20-year-old and 25-year-old, I'm so grateful for my younger self, because that younger self read books and gave up a lot and sacrificed and learned and invested in himself and did all these things that I get to now benefit today for at 34 years old. And so, Christopher, there will be a time in your life when you're 25 years old, 30 years old, 40 years old, 50 years old, and what your life looks like when you're 30 years old or 40 or 50 or 60 is going to be dependent on what you're doing right now today. So right now, Christopher, you're in a position, you get to create for yourself the life you want when you're 30. And when you're 30, your 30-year-old Christopher is going to look back and thank your 19-year-old Christopher. So ask yourself, what could I do today that my 30-year-old self would thank me for? What could I do today that my 40-year-old self would thank me for? Maybe it's reading. Read a book. Learn about, you said, financial wealth. I did a video, I think a week or two ago, sharing 10 books. Buy those books, read those books, apply what you learned from those books. That's going to benefit you and put you in a great position to be financially wealthy by the time you're 30 years old. Learn about perhaps starting a business if that is something that you're attracted to. Learn about business and marketing. That's going to benefit you in your future. Right now when you're 19, don't even worry about making money. Just focus on your growth and your development. And don't, when you're 19, don't just focus on that. Focus on your relationships, learning about relationships, focus on learning about health, because those are things that are also going to pay dividends down the road. There might be a time for you where you're going to have to make the most important decision in life, which is who are you going to spend the rest of your life with? That's the most important decision, as far as I'm concerned, that every human being makes. A man or woman that you're going to spend your life with is a decision that you don't make after being with someone for a month. You know, it's a decision that you make that you got to make sure that this is the right fit for you. You share the same vision, values, you're in alignment, and is someone that is a friend and someone that you want to grow and evolve with. And that's a hard decision to make. Even the decision of what you want to do with the rest of your life, like how are you supposed to make that decision when you're 19 years old, when you've never even experienced much of life? Like you don't really know what you're going to do for the rest of your life at that age. There's so much pressure on that. But the more that you can just learn about relationships and the world and yourself and your strengths and weaknesses, the more advantages and the more opportunities you're going to have later down the road. All right, let's dive into another question. Okay, someone says, I would like to know how to get over the fear of recording yourself. Well, break down that fear into smaller steps that you can take, baby steps. So for example, maybe what you could do is you could just record yourself on your phone. You could take out your phone and just record yourself. Now this recording, you don't have to put it anywhere on the internet. It's just for you. But just by doing that, you're getting more comfortable with yourself and in the camera. The next step that you could take is when you feel confident to take that recording, put it up on YouTube, and maybe just put it as an unlisted video. Okay, a video that pretty much nobody can see unless they have a link to it. That's a step in the right direction. And then the next step is to put that video as a public video, right? And just take those steps. You know, when I used to do coaching for men, I used to coach other men and help them improve their confidence and social skills. And a lot of men, the biggest fear they had is approach anxiety. So that's anxiety to approach a woman. And so what I'd get them to do at first is say, hey, listen, don't worry about approaching a woman and just making, because the fear is that you're making it bigger than it is. You're creating a story in your head and you're anticipating pain in the future, and you're probably seeing getting rejected and the worst possible case scenario, which often never even materializes anyways. It's just an exaggeration that we have in our head. So what I'd say to these men is, listen, forget about that. Don't try to get a woman's phone number. Don't try to get a date or anything like that. Don't even try to get her to like you. Right now, let's start small and get you in the habit of just going up to people, approaching strangers. And if it's a woman that's attractive, okay, that's maybe too fearful for you. So approach a grandma, approach a man, approach anybody, you know, just to get in the habit to overcome this fear. So I'd say, okay, how about that woman over there or that person over there, and just approach them and ask them for directions. That's it. Just ask them for directions. Hey, do you know where Best Buy is? Hey, do you know where the Walmart is? Do you know where the nearest gas station is? Ask them a question, walk away. That's it. Just by doing that, you're becoming a little bit more comfortable. You're becoming comfortable with discomfort. Okay, what's the next step? Okay, maybe you could go and ask them for the time. Okay, ask them for the time. Okay, great. They give you the time. Awesome. Maybe it doesn't go out in a favorable way. They say, I'm too busy, I don't have the time. You're starting to learn, okay, this person didn't give me the time, but was it really the end of the world? You know, is my life destroyed? Like, does it really matter? Of course not. So you start to realize that even rejection isn't as bad as you thought it to be. The next step is maybe you walk up to someone more attractive and maybe you ask them a different question. You ask them for their opinion on something. Hey, let me get your opinion on something real quick. Or hey, you slowly take those steps and you get more comfortable and more confident. Before you know it, you can have conversations with someone and get a phone number, or and get a date with that person perhaps. But it's a process that you build up to. So just break it down into bite-sized steps. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. Okay. All right, another question. Do you understand and utilize sexual transmutation? Yes, I do. In fact, I did a video on this inside my Life Mastery Accelerator program. So for those of you that don't know, I've got another course called Life Mastery Accelerator. I go into more advanced topics than I do here on YouTube, because on YouTube, there's certain topics that do better than others, but my Life Mastery Accelerator, I go deeper into certain subjects. So sexual transmutation is actually a concept that was more popularized by Napoleon Hill in the classic book Think and Grow Rich, but it's really been around for a long time. I mean, a lot of tantric principles are based on how to channel your sexual energy, including even Taoism, Taoist lovemaking. You learn how to, for example, when you have your sexual energy, like for example, in Taoism lovemaking, they believe that your semen for men is your life force, your life energy. And when you ejaculate it, then you're losing your life energy. And that contributes to, aging and just less vitality, less confidence, and all of that. And so when you retain your semen, and you learn actually even better to channel that by flexing your pelvic floor or doing Kegel exercises, or for example, your PC muscle, which is the muscle that if you're a man, I think even for a woman too, if you are going to the bathroom and you're peeing, if you stop the flow of urine, that's your PC muscle. And you can strengthen that muscle. But sexual transformation is when you're able to channel the energy all the way up to your spine, up to your crown chakra. So all the way down from your root chakra, which is right at your tailbone, all the way up to your crown chakra. And you can actually channel it and keep it there, but that can actually be sometimes problematic as well. But you can actually bring it down, you store it in your navel or in your solar plexus, which is also a chakra here too. By doing that, you have more confidence, you feel more energetic, you have more life energy, you actually become smarter, you have less brain fog, you're more clear, and you just feel more powerful. In fact, even for men, I think one of the most destructive things for men is pornography. And if someone's interested, I can do a whole rant on that. But pornography it's really harmful for men. It's really fucking men up, and they don't even know it. It's insane. But there's so much information out there about what it's doing to people's brains and their neurotransmitters and overstimulation, and contributing to erectile dysfunction and depression and anxiety and just laziness and procrastination. It's insane really what a lot of that does. But one of the most powerful experiences, the most powerful forms of pleasure that any human being can have is what? What do you think it is? Besides using drugs, the most powerful experience of pleasure that a human being can have is an orgasm. And what they've done is they've done brain scans where they've actually identified that when you do a brain map, when you have an orgasm, there's a neurochemical storm happening in your brain. And it's similar to taking heroin and cocaine. And so an orgasm is one of the most addictive things that someone can be addicted to. Pornography accelerates that in a huge way, because really orgasm, we live in a different world than our ancestors, because there's birth control today. And when you are having sex with someone and you have an orgasm or you ejaculate, you're going to fertilize the person most likely. And our genetic makeup, every part of our DNA is programmed to procreate, to ensure our survival. That's just our genetic makeup trying to do its thing. But we live in a world today where if the only benefit you really get from orgasm, unless you're trying to actually impregnate someone and have kids and start a family, if the only benefit you're getting is just pleasure from it, and the benefit you get is maybe it relieves stress and helps you sleep better and makes you feel more relaxed and gets rid of anxiety, now you're using that as a crutch. And you're using that as a way to escape most often, and it's an addiction. And what happens is whenever you have an orgasm, like any drug, for example, that overstimulates dopamine, which is the biggest one that gets overstimulated when you have an orgasm, whatever goes up must come down. So there's a crash. For men, most often the crash is right away. Once you ejaculate, boom, you're tired, you're exhausted. You don't have much motivation or much desire. For women, their drop is a little bit after that, can be a few days later, but they've actually done research and found that when you have an orgasm, it takes about 2 weeks for your brain to return back to a state of harmony and equilibrium. So what happens most often, you have an orgasm, the next day or maybe 2 days or 3 days later, you're going to have a low dopamine day. And by the way, it's not just orgasm. Things that overstimulate dopamine are drugs, junk food, sugar, social media, binge watching videos on YouTube and Netflix, video games, shopping, gambling. These are all things that overstimulate dopamine. That's why they're insanely addictive. So what happens is when you overstimulate it, then you're going to have days when you have very low dopamine. Low dopamine days are where you're going to feel tired and exhausted and lazy and procrastinate. You have no motivation, and when you feel low dopamine, you're trying to boost your dopamine and bring it up. And so what do? you want to eat junk food, you want to play video games, you want to watch pornography, you want to have orgasm, and that brings up your dopamine, but it keeps you in this repetitive and perpetual cycle where every 2 weeks you never get to a state of equilibrium. And I challenge anyone here, and listen, not everyone's actually open to this, I get it, I've been there before myself until I've been on the other side now, but I challenge anyone here, listen, if you've had, listen, most people that have watched porn or have orgasms, you've probably already had 1,000 of them and you have the rest of your life to have orgasms. But I challenge you, go 30 days without one. 30 days. If you can't even do that, then that's even a huge sign that you're massively addicted to orgasm. But you can do research on this. I invite you to. Great book is called Cupid's Poison Arrow. Another great book, Your Brain on Porn. There's countless things. There's even communities for men of NoFap is the movement, and dopamine detox. I put out a video on dopamine detox. I did a in-depth one also on my Life Master Accelerator on this, but this is one of the most powerful things that just amazes me that so many people don't know about. And sexual transmutation is a different level. And if you're in a relationship with someone, as I am with Tatiana, you can practice non-orgasmic sex. There's methods called the Karetza method, where it's more about creating intimacy, and instead of overstimulating dopamine, you're stimulating oxytocin, and you're creating more bonding, and you're actually incredibly refreshed, and you get more energy from that. And you can also learn many tantric techniques, and there's so many different techniques. I mean, even Mantak Chia's got a great book called The Multi-Orgasmic Man. I mean, there's just so much out there. I could talk about this for hours, but to answer the question, yes. Okay. All right, let's dive into another question. All right, Own, sorry if I mispronounced her name. I got the ASM 12 course through you. My question, how much time do you spend with Tatiana? I worry I would get too addicted to FBA, not spend enough time with my significant other. Well, I spend a lot of time with Tatiana, but you gotta understand I'm in a different position than you might be when you're first starting a business. I've already created success in my life, and I get to enjoy the freedom that it provides. But when Tatiana and I were first dating, we've been together for over 6 years now, we only really spent time with each other on the weekends. We just worked and productive throughout the weekend, we had our date nights and time together, and that was great. I believe more in quality time with someone than quantity time. I've also experienced, even in relationships where you spend so much time with the person that it's almost like unhealthy because you become overly dependent on them, and you need to meet your needs and fulfill them outside of it. And that actually makes the time you do spend with your partner more quality because you have more to talk about, and it's more exciting, it's more fun when you're around them. So I think if you're building your business, and ASM is the best course, you're in great hands. And I got a coaching group that you can be a part of as well, that if you email the receipt, get my bonuses. So you've got great hands, but understand, yes, it's going to require more commitment at first to get it set up, but understand that your business is designed to give you freedom later, right? So by building this business, you're going to no longer have to be in a position, as most people are on this planet, where you're caught up in the 9 to 5, trading your time for money. Now you're in a position when you have freedom, where you can do what you want, when you want, with whomever you want. So it's a price you pay up front for the benefit of ultimate freedom, which is obviously worth it. Last year, for example, Tatiana and I traveled to 18 countries. We wouldn't have been able to do that if we didn't make the sacrifice up front to build our businesses to benefit from that. And now today, when we have kids and start a family, we're going to be able to benefit from the work that we did in advance years ago, because now we'll be able to spend more time with our kids. We'll be able to spend more time together. We'll be able to be better parents as a result of that, because we're not worried about money. We're not having to work for somebody else. We can set our own hours, and we have passive income, and we're in a great position to do so. So understand why you're doing this, and don't just look at things in the short term. Look at the long term. You got to shift your brain from short-term thinking to long-term thinking. Okay, when you make that shift, it'll be a no-brainer. And you just got to commit a couple hours a week on your business, and that's more than enough for most. And as you make more money, then you can commit more, or you can quit your job and work at it full time. All right, let's dive into another question. Okay, Dan says, consider your opinion on pornography. I'm wondering your opinion about threesome with your partner and how it affects relationships. Well, pornography is very detrimental in a relationship because you're basically training your brain to be attracted to fantasy and not reality. So every time that you open up a computer and you're watching women, men, whatever it might be, that's not real. Okay, it's not real. It's actually manufactured. It's basically a form of marketing, tapping into our desires and really tapping into our mammalian brain. There's three parts of our brain: reptilian brain, mammalian brain, and the rational brain. And so it's really bypassing the rational brain to our mammalian brain, which is very, going to get very high dopamine and all that tied to that. But it's not real because, even you're watching something that's based on multiple camera angles and editing and all this sort of stuff that's creating and manufacturing something to arouse you. And what happens most often is that pornography becomes more extreme over time because you develop a tolerance to it and you end up needing more and crazier things to be aroused. Even, for example, threesomes in a lot of cases is a byproduct of overstimulation of pornography. And so what happens is, when you overstimulate yourself in that way, then your actual partner, the woman, the man that you're with, they can't ever compete with pornography because that's not real. That's a fantasy. So what happens in a relationship is you become less attracted to your partner, and you end up needing a computer and this whole fantasy thing to be able to get aroused. And then most often what overstimulates dopamine is novelty, because dopamine acts as a neurotransmitter, but also a hormone in the blood. But what dopamine does is it gives you pleasure anytime there's an anticipation of a reward. Any reward, any level of novelty. So for example, most people that watch pornography, they watch multiple videos. They have multiple tabs and they're overstimulating themselves. And so that doesn't translate to actually being intimate with your partner. And you can't be aroused by them. And you end up can't even be present with them. You're off in this fantasy, and that's what creates a huge addiction for you, and it just creates more disconnection, more division in your relationship. So it's very detrimental. When you detox your brain, not just from porn, for example, but dopamine, what happens is you reset your brain, and you start to feel more pleasure and more joy. It's like when you overstimulate dopamine, you're like a zombie. You're like a zombie. A lot of people are lethargic in life, is my definition of most people in society. They don't have passion and joy and life to them. They're just like zombies. And that's kind of what happens when you watch pornography and you overstimulate your dopamine levels. And it creates issues there in your relationship, in my opinion. I think everything can be done in balance and moderation, but it's such a powerful drug that I think a lot of men are better off without watching it and indulging in it. Also there's one thing that I think is also really important, especially for men, is a lot of men are caught up in what I call the Peter Pan syndrome, where they're kind of boys in their life and they don't want to grow up. And if you look at the story of Peter Pan's a boy. He's magical because all kids are pure potential, but Peter Pan doesn't want to grow up. He doesn't want to take responsibility in his life. And he doesn't want to, pursue his career and define his purpose and start a family, for example, or commit to someone in his life. And so Peter Pan, his role model of an adult, because he lives in Neverland, which is this fantasy world that doesn't even exist, but his role model, the only role model of an adult is Captain Hook. But Captain Hook is a tyrant, and he's negative, and he's got a hook. And Captain Hook is afraid of death. He's afraid of his mortality. He hasn't accepted it. That's why he's afraid of clocks, because every time he sees a clock, it's a reminder of his mortality. And so when you see a lot of men that don't have strong father figures in their life and role models, they're lost. And that's what Peter Pan is. He's the king of the lost boys. But why would you want to be you're lost in your life? And he actually has an opportunity to evolve and grow to be a man and take responsibility, because there's a woman who is Wendy. But Wendy wants to grow up. She doesn't want to stay a kid. She wants to have a family and all of that. And so Peter Pan is with he's into Tinkerbell, which is a fantasy. And that's kind of the equivalent to a lot of men. They distract themselves and they live in this world of Neverland, and they're lost. And they're Tinkerbell is pornography. It's the substitute. You could have a real connection and real intimacy and real attraction, a real relationship, the actual real thing. But when you're a boy, you're afraid, like Peter Pan, you're afraid to actually grow up in your life. And you just stay lost, and because even going out to meet a woman is an incredible risk. You got to put yourself on the line. You got to face rejection. You've got to actually connect with someone. In porn and this fantasy world that people live in, and including even binge watching YouTube videos and Netflix and social media, people are trying to escape responsibility and actually living their life in the real world and actually owning themselves and stepping up and becoming men and adults. And women actually, they are, they definitely grow up a lot faster than men do, but it's a huge problem. It's a huge problem in men. And so, if you any behavior, any addiction, anything that's holding you back, that's why you got to be honest with yourself and say, is this really serving me and empowering my life? And you have to be honest with yourself with that. Is it benefiting me long term, a year from now, 5 years, 10 years from now? Is it benefiting my relationship 5 or 10 years from now? If it's not, then it's probably in your best interest to stop it now, because the further you go down the rabbit hole, the further you stick with something, the harder it is to change later in your life. And there's so many resources. I mean, you can, in the topic, for example, dopamine, there's videos, like just look on YouTube, look up NoFap. There's message boards for men, there's apps, there's so much. So if you're looking for ways to free yourself from addiction, explore it. Even the 12 steps, men anyone really that suffers from addiction, there's 12-step programs. I've done the 12 steps, and not even for any addiction. I've never had drug addiction, alcohol addiction, or anything like that. But I've done the 12 steps, which is, by the way, the 12 steps is one of the most successful programs, because your addictive self, actually, you have a sub-personality within yourself, which is what is a part of your addiction. The 12 steps is a spiritual conversion, which is you're actually creating a new personality. And the 12 steps, the reason why I love the 12 steps, I think everybody should do it. It's a path towards spirituality. It's a path towards God. It's a path towards, it's actually the 12 steps, I kind of look at it as a form of prayer. Because like the first step is you admit that you're powerless over your addiction. Because what stops people from, like, the biggest problem with addiction is people think I can stop anytime. That's the biggest lie that they tell themselves. It's like they're delusional. Like, I was watching an interview with Robin Williams, God rest his soul, and he was saying his alcohol addiction. He's like, there's a personality in your brain with a voice that just says one more. It's not going to be that bad if I just have one more drink. And that personality, that voice always says, I can stop anytime I want. But it's like a monster. You can't listen to it. So the moment you realize in the 12 steps, like when you admit that you're powerless, that like, listen, I can't stop this. I've tried to fix my life my way. It doesn't work. I need divine intervention. I need a higher power. I need God. I need to surrender. And that has been one of the most powerful self-development techniques, spiritual development things you can actually do, is to transcend into a spiritual person, to realize that you can't solve your life and your problems on your own. Because most people, they're trying to fill a void through external materialistic things that can only be solved, in my opinion, through God or through a higher power. And the next step is, surrendering to this higher power and asking for help and taking inventory as you go through the steps, inventory of every wrong that you've done in your life. So it's an incredible sense of awareness where you're just like making a list and journaling. I lied to that person. I did this thing in the past, or I wasn't in integrity here, or I hurt this person, whatever it is. And you're willing to make amends, and you confess that to this higher power. And you ask for forgiveness, and you remove all the guilt and the shame and all those layers that we have. And like, it's such a powerful process, the 12 steps. I love it. I'm probably continuously go through the 12 steps. Even like if you don't have an addiction, it's very powerful to go through these steps. And no wonder it's been around for so long and helped so many people's lives. Okay, let's dive into some more questions. Apologize, guys, if I missed some of them. I'm just I coming back to the chat and just trying to grab whatever questions I see pop up. So if you do need to ask repeat your question, please do so. I'll do the best I can to answer it for you. Jonah says, how to deal with your ex-girlfriend to still talk on the phone with her ex. Still they call each other on Valentine's Day. Is there any red flag on this issue for the future? Well, Jonah, I think it is something that, can be a very uncomfortable thing in a relationship. And I think in a relationship, you need to communicate with your partner and express to them and communicate to them, listen, this is something that, you know, is making me uncomfortable, and I don't know if it's appropriate to do so. And I think in a relationship, there's times where, you know, if you're really committed to your partner in your relationship, you obviously don't want to hurt your partner. You don't want to do things that are going to compromise your relationship. And obviously, if your partner is still in communication with their ex, that is something that can compromise the relationship. That just through the act of proximity and just the fact that there's so much emotion that's been tied and is still perhaps linked and associated to that relationship, I personally don't think it's a very appropriate thing. Now, in my relationship with Tatiana, if I was still in contact with someone that made her uncomfortable and she expressed to me, Stephanie, that doesn't make me comfortable, I would say I totally respect that and I understand, and you're more important to me in the relationship, which is an entity that's more important than both of us. That entity is more important for me as well, and I'm willing to give that up because I'm committed to our relationship. And she would do the exact same thing. And it really depends, though, of course, if you're comfortable with it or not, but it is something that you have to communicate with your partner to come to terms with. And hopefully your partner is understanding of that perspective. And I understand there could still be a friendship there or some sort of connection there. But again, if you're really committed to your partner and it's something that makes things uncomfortable, in your other partner, I think it's something that the person should let go, in my opinion, and to have that willingness to do so. Now, there can be relationships, of course, where they are friends, great, and maybe the other person's in a happy relationship, there's not much threat or anything to it, and maybe even that person is a friend of yours, the relationship as well, and that can definitely work too, and I've seen that work successfully. But I think it is something that you should communicate and cultivate that trust with your partner, and just, make sure that you're on the same page with that. So communication is always one of the most important things in a relationship. You have to be able to communicate, and be able to communicate in a way where your partner is not making you wrong or judging you, but they're giving you a safe place to share whatever your fears or your concerns are, and there are things that you can discuss. And just the act of communication creates trust. It creates a stronger connection with one another. So I'd say communicate it with it, and if it's something that's very important for you, then you might have to communicate that a bit more firmly. Okay, dive into a new question. M. Williams says, hey, Stefan, if you can't afford the ASM 12 course but still want to start your FBA business, would you recommend taking a more affordable course and start your way from there? Yeah, that is definitely an option for you, but honestly, there's not that many courses that I'd recommend, because really what you gotta understand, it's not like just any course. What you're buying in a course is the strategy of what actually works and gets you results. The process of selling on Amazon is pretty simple. Put up find a product, put it up on Amazon, you can be selling on Amazon. It doesn't mean you're gonna be successful. And so a course like ASM, the reason why I recommend it is that it's the course that actually leads to the best success rate and the best results, which is really the only thing that I care about, and you should care about as well, is the results you get. So you don't look at the cost, you look at the results you can produce. Like when I invest in a stock and make any investment, I'm not looking at the cost of the stock. That's one factor among many, but I'm willing to invest more money for a higher quality company that can produce a better return. Otherwise, I just invest in crappy companies, penny stocks that are cheap, that are just a higher risk. And so when you invest in a course that's not as good or a cheaper course, don't expect great results from that. In some cases, I believe that a lot of people, they try to start their business without the right guidance and the right education, that they end up losing money and time, and it ends up doing more damage to them because now they fail and get discouraged rather than investing more and getting a quality program. So what I would say is that really, if you can't afford ASM, there's another course I can recommend. If you're on my email list, I'll share it with you in the next 2 weeks. I'm going to do a training on it and share more with it. But I would probably even recommend not even starting FBA, like maybe starting Amazon book publishing instead if you can't afford ASM, because like FBA is going to cost you money. You got to invest in inventory, packaging, shipping and freight forwarding, and the profit margin. You're going to have to reinvest back into that business. It's a business that's really for those that are more financially secure and have the money to actually invest in building their business. Otherwise, publishing books on Amazon is great. I got a course on that, or affiliate marketing can be other opportunities for you. You can make money with that. It's a cheaper business to start. Might not have as much potential, but you could start there and then later transition into FBA. So I don't know, there's honestly a lot of courses out there suck. I've bought a lot of them and invest in a lot of courses, and as you can imagine, and I'm just trying to save you also from, because I'm in a different position as most of you guys, because you guys are looking at things from your perception, your perspective, but you don't have the perspective that I have, which is I get all the people that email me and send me messages that like I see all the failures, I see all of the mistakes that people make, and I'm seeing, the problems with these other courses and this issue, and I'm also seeing those that are successful. And that's why I'm able to be in this unique position to share with you guys that when I share whatever I share with you guys on this topic is coming not from just my experience, but the perspective that I have of working with thousands of people. What I can do is I can filter all of that failure and success to give you more concrete and precise answers and guidance and advice that can lead to a higher probability of success for you. So that's really what I'm trying to do, and I think it's kind of unique because I'm able to think about all of those things collectively when I give my advice to you. But I personally, I don't know if I would even start without something like ASM. I'd probably do Amazon book publishing instead. And I've got a course for that, Mastering Book Publishing. But I'd probably do that, to be honest, and then wait, or just, save up your money, maybe do a payment plan or something. But, like even for me, if I were to go back and start a business and I didn't have money, I'd probably put the idea of starting a business on hold until I had the money to get the right training and be able to start the business the right way. And so what I personally would have done is and this is actually kind of what I did do, but I would have worked extra hours at my job, construction work on the weekends, like anything I could do to make extra money, cut out expenses to make sure that I'm like, okay, I'm committing to my business. I got the best training. I've got the money. I'm ready. I'm going all in on this, and I'm really going to build this the right way rather than trying to do it a way, in my opinion, that's not going to be as successful. So that's probably what I would do if I were to recommend if you're in that position, or start with like another business model that's just not as money intensive, I guess, and learn, gain experience, make money, and then when you have more, then transition to FBA. Is Marketplace Superheroes a bad course? It's not a bad course. It's a good course. It's just not nearly as good as ASM. I mean, that would be the next best thing that I could recommend to you, but there's just nothing as good as ASM. How do you deal with things that you can't control? If you can't control something, you focus on what you can control. Because when you can't control something, you're just going to go insane. You're going to, if you can't control it, it's just, there's no action you can really take to solve it. So instead, you focus on what you can control and what you can do and what the solution is. They say that you want to spend 95% of your time focus on the solution, only 5% of your time focus on the problem. Most people get it in reverse. They spend 95% of the time focus on the problem and only 5% on the solution. So focus on what you can change and what you can control. And that's all I try to do in my life. Is I can't control what people think. I can't control what people do. There's a lot of things I can't control, but what good is there really me focusing on that? I can't control the past, right? You can only learn from the past and take the good from the past, but you can't control it. So I'm going to just take what I can from the past, and I'm going to focus on the present and the future. And hopefully what I take from the past, all the good from it, I can apply to my future and make my life better. So that's all you can really do, in my opinion. All right, let's dive into another question. How do you schedule your day? Well, I schedule my week in advance. So I plan out my week. When I plan out, I always capture first all the things I want to do for that week, and I categorize it, and then I am able to go through and prioritize the most important things for that week. And so I schedule those a week in advance. So for example, this stream was scheduled last week. So I scheduled, okay, at this time, I'm doing a live stream on YouTube. Earlier this morning, I had scheduled in a call with my team, so that's scheduled in. Tomorrow, I've got things scheduled. I schedule in my morning ritual. I schedule in when I'm going to wake up. I schedule in when my date night's going to be. I schedule things in advance. The most important things, I even schedule in advance. Okay, this day, I'm going to focus on creating content for YouTube. Okay, this day, I'm going to focus on working on this project. So I schedule things in advance, the most important things, and then on a daily basis, what I do is I make my list. I got already kind of a plan of what I want to do, and then I just schedule in everything else that comes up for myself. So I'm just trying to be proactive as much as I can every week and every day. And I always try to focus on the most important things first. So not all activities and actions are equal. You got to be careful not mistaking activity with achievement. A lot of people are active, but they're not really achieving things. The way you achieve things is you got to be able to prioritize out of everything you could do, what's the most important thing that's going to equal the highest result. And you got to leverage yourself in that way. And there's something called the 80-20 principle that can help you do that. So you identify the 20% that leads to 80% of the result. And you do that first. And when you do important things every single day, first thing, when you have the most willpower and energy, you do that day after day, you're going to accomplish some incredible things throughout the week, throughout your months, and throughout your years. Hi, Stefan. What advice do you have for scarcity about being too late with selling on Amazon since it's growing so big and more people are starting with selling on it? Well, first I want to acknowledge you just for even identifying it's a scarcity mentality, and really what it is a belief system. And remember what I said earlier, that your belief will determine your action will determine your results. So the belief of scarcity, the believing that it's too late, what action will that produce for you? None. So people that believe that it's too late, I can't do this, I missed all the opportunity, you believe that, you take no action, you get no results. Now that's all, that belief is only an interpretation. Is it true? No, because there's other people that actually believe, including myself, that the opportunity is greater than it's ever been, that there's so much demand on Amazon, and that right now is one of the best times in history to build a business online, but one of the best times to get started on Amazon. So when I have that belief system, or if anyone else did, if they believe that this is the best opportunity, what action will they take? They're going to take massive action because they're like, oh my God, the opportunity is so amazing. And what kind of results will that produce? That's going to produce incredible results because they are optimistic about the opportunity and the potential that it has. And that belief is going to formulate and dictate their actions, which will create the results. So you got to understand the scarcity mentality is only a belief. It's not true. It's your interpretation. It's based on fear, and it's bullshit. It's like people have been saying this for like years and years and years. And of course, those people don't take any action and create any results. But at the same time, I've been seeing over years, people get started on Amazon and go on to have incredible success. Like, listen, what's going to create your success is you. It's not even Amazon. Okay, you're giving too much credit to Amazon. You are the one that's responsible for your success. Like, listen, there could be a course or an opportunity, Amazon or Amazing Selling Machine. One person has one mindset and they decide to join a course or to sell on Amazon. But let's say this person's mindset is they're fearful in their life. They are lazy and they procrastinate a lot. They don't have work ethic. They're not that intelligent. They're not that creative. You know, they don't have much drive and motivation. They're negative. They complain. They always look for the worst in things. You know, like they have a lot of limiting beliefs and fears and doubt. Okay, that person, it doesn't matter what opportunity you give them. They're going to fuck it up. They're never going to be successful with it because their mindset is going to manifest no results, or they're going to have like a half-hearted attempt with it and they're not going to get that far. And then what happens for those people is often they feel they live in a bit of a victim mentality, right? Where they're, you know, they kind of blame something outside themselves and they say, oh, it's Amazon, it's too saturated, it's too competitive, you can't succeed at it. Because it's much more comfortable to do it that way and to blame something else than to blame themselves. And to look themselves in the mirror and say, no, it's because I'm lazy, because I gave up too soon, I don't have perseverance, I don't have work ethic, I'm not pushing myself enough, I'm not challenging myself, I'm not giving it my all, I didn't give 100% effort here, right? But it's so painful to do that, to be honest with yourself in that way. It doesn't feel good because it means potentially that you're not good enough and that you're a failure. And so you deflect that and you don't want to take any responsibility for your success. And so you blame something else, right? That's basically someone that's in the process of failure and never gets out of it unless they finally take ownership and responsibility and they realize they got to change themselves. And if they change themselves, then everything will change for them. On the other hand, you take someone that's a positive person, that's confident, that is optimistic, someone that's motivated and driven, is willing to put in work and sacrifice, and you know, is willing to grow and improve, and they don't want to give up. They're going to do whatever it takes. You take that person and they believe the opportunity is great. They start selling on Amazon, or they join a course, and they go on and they go and create incredible success. And they're like a superstar and an inspiration. So you got to understand, you are the one that creates your success, and you are the one that creates your failure. You are responsible for that. I can't do it for you. No course can do it for you. No personal trainer can make you fit. Only you can. I can't make you successful. Only you can. No course, Amazon can't even make you successful. Only you can. So the most important thing I could tell you, you got to work harder on yourself than you do on your business or anything else. Because your mindset is so... Your operating system, your computer, it's so outdated that you've got to rework the whole thing, man. You've got to almost like, you're still operating on Windows 95. You're operating on something that's ancient, and not unless you change your mindset, nothing you do in your life is going to be successful. On the other hand, when you grow into becoming a developed person, you change your mindset, your belief systems, you're now successful in anything you pursue in your life. Anything. Like for me, what helped me is I shifted my belief and my confidence first when I really focused on my dating life, and I overcame shyness and insecurity and all of that. I changed my life there. Then I did a fitness competition. Because the principles of success, they transfer to every other area of your life. When you're successful in one area of your life, it translates to your health. And that's why I did 2 fitness competitions. That's why I was able to translate to that my relationships and create a great relationship. Like for me, and I'm not saying this in any egotistical way, because that's not my intention to, but I believe that I've accumulated enough quote unquote success principles, and I've shaped my mindset that I could be successful in anything I put my mind to, without a doubt. If I stopped YouTube tomorrow, I would still go on to be successful in anything I committed myself to, because it's not YouTube that made me successful, it's me. It's my mindset, my blueprint. That if I started on Amazon tomorrow, and even if I didn't know anything about business and marketing, but I had the mindset, I know without a doubt that I could go on and build a $1 million business on Amazon. If I wanted to pursue like any other business endeavor, I would be successful at it. And again, I'm not saying that because I'm so great. It's because I've conditioned myself and I've developed my mindset. So when you say that scarcity on Amazon, that's just your fear, and that just means that you don't have the right mindset going into this. And it doesn't mean you can't do it. It means that you can do it, but you've got to work on your mindset simultaneously. Like you've got to do a lot of work. Otherwise, like, and what other option do you have? Like you can either just accept your life and settle, which maybe you're okay with, or you go to work on yourself and you read books and you shift your confidence. You create morning rituals. You do the things that I share with you. And essentially, for example, like with the amazing selling machine, I put together such an incredible bonus package and offer that includes coaching, trainings that I've got on mindset, and so much that really the result of what I've put together, I believe, is more than just building a successful Amazon business. It's transforming you into a successful person. And forget about Amazon. It's like when you go through that process and you change yourself in that way, success on Amazon is just like a symptom of that. It's a byproduct of who you become. You manifest and you attract success in your life constantly. And that's really what you got to understand. So, and part of the way you actually create your mindset is actually going through and building your business. Because for me, for example, going through business, it taught me so much more than not having a business, because it taught me about how to be a hard worker and how to be disciplined and how to be motivated, how to deal with failure, how to deal with adversity. The process is what shapes you, because it's not about what you get, it's who you become, right? Who you become is the most important. No one can take that away. Like even for example, if I were to give you $1 million, and they've seen this with people that win the lottery, most people lose the money. They lose the money. How is that possible? Because they are given this amount of money without the right mindset. They don't know how to manage money. They're not responsible with money. They don't know how to invest money. They're like attached to instant gratification. They don't know how to delay gratification. So they lose all the money. If you take someone, for example, that someone's like 300 pounds, right? And they do liposuction and you suck out of their body 150 pounds, 100 pounds. They end up gaining the weight back because they didn't change their mindset and their habits. And as long as they continue to have the same beliefs, they continue eating the same way and not exercising. And even though you took out 100 pounds from their body, their belief and mindset is what produces the action that produces the result, right? And in the same way, if you took someone like myself or anyone that's successful, for that matter, most people, you could remove all of my money from my bank account, all of it, put me at zero. But what you can never take away is who I've become. My mindset, my beliefs, my habits, my behavior. And within a few years, I would accumulate all that same amount of money back into my bank account. They even say, if you were to take all the world's wealth and divide it evenly amongst everybody, within a few years, it would end up in the same hands. Because it's the mindset, guys. It's the most important thing you got to understand that's going to create your success. And this training, by the way, of what we've been talking about for, oh my gosh, over 2 hours, this has actually been changing your beliefs, believe it or not. Your beliefs are influenced by your environment. Everything that goes into your mind is changing your belief. We've changed some belief systems here as you guys are here listening and watching to what I'm saying. You change your beliefs when you read books from inspirational people that have more empowering belief system. That's shaping your beliefs as well. In the same way, your friends and your family, people in your life, they're also influencing your beliefs. So you got to be careful who you surround yourself with. A lot of your friends and family are not going to have any problems telling you what you should do or giving you advice on what you're doing. And you got to be very careful who you listen to. So your parents, your friends, they could mean well, they could love you, but you got to look at what they're saying. You've got to filter it through, do they have the life that I want? Do they have results that I want in my life? Because you got to understand, whatever they're saying and communicating to you is a reflection of their belief. And if you listen to their belief, you're going to take similar actions than they took and have similar results in them. So most often, a lot of people that might try to give you advice or me advice, I look at their life and I think to myself, okay, does this person have what I want? And is what they're saying to me right now, is it going to contribute to the life that I want to live? Is it empowering to me? Is it useful to me in my life? No? Okay, I say thank you very much to that person, and then I do not listen to them. And then I instead find people that have the life that I want, that have the body, the relationships, the success, the freedom, the happiness, and I listen to what they have to say, because what they have to say is the belief systems that led to the actions that produced those results in their life. So I listen to them. And then my friends, unfortunately, a lot of your friends and family might never have the life you want to have. And so they're going to say to you, oh, that's crazy. You're working too hard. You got to do this in your life. You should go to school instead. It's like, okay, well, thank you, but that's not going to get me to where I want to go. That's going to get you to where you want to go, and I don't want to be where you want to go. So there's nothing wrong with where you want to be in your life. Great if that's serving you, but that's not serving me, because I have a different vision and path that I want to take for my life, right? So you got to be willing to understand that sometimes your friends and family can hold you back unconsciously, and they mean well. They have every great intention to support you. But they think they're supporting you by projecting on you their belief system, which is right for them, but might be right for you. And that's why one of the most important things and ways to change your beliefs is to get around other people that have the life you want, get coaches and maybe watch YouTube videos, and to surround yourself with that and feed your mind with that, which will shape your beliefs and move you in that direction automatically. Because your ecosystem, it influences you just through osmosis. You don't even have to work at it. If you want to change your body, if you get around people that are healthy and fit, just by being in conversation and in relationship with them, you're going to embody some of their beliefs, and that's automatically going to shape you and lead to you getting in better shape. If you surround yourself with people or even watch videos or read books of people that are millionaires, that's going to rub off on you, and you're going to naturally move in that direction just as you focus on it, consume it, and it shapes your beliefs to follow that. So that's one of the ways you can do it. Oh, right. And it's just it's so crazy. Like, it's so crazy that people actually think that too. Like, that's the crazy thing. I can't even believe that people even think that it's like too late to build a business on Amazon. Like, are you crazy? Like right now, like, we're still in the infancy. There's billions of people on this planet that don't even have access to the internet yet. Like, even over the next 10, 20 years, Like what I'm sharing with you guys right now is pretty underground. You guys got to know that. This is not mainstream information. Most people out there have no idea that you can build a business on Amazon and you can create this lifestyle for yourself. You guys are being exposed to this now. And what you don't realize is 10 years from now, like more of the population is going to be exposed to this. And you have such a competitive advantage right now that, like, for example, if your friends and family don't know that you can build a business on Amazon and that you can sell online, you're so much further ahead of the curve. So that's my invitation. Go to your friends and family, ask them, hey, did you know you can build a business on Amazon? If they say no, that means that it's definitely not too late and you have a huge, huge advantage right now. And you're gonna regret it, in my opinion, in a huge way as 10 years goes by. And probably your friends and family and people like that are gonna get into it. And you're gonna look back and like, man, I could have sold back on Amazon back in 2020. I could have gotten started then. Like, when you look at where the world is going and the direction and the future of it, do you not think and see where the world is going? Do you not see how traditional offline retailers are going out of business and everything is being moved to online and the advantages of that and the future? And you're crazy not to prepare yourself for that now when you have this opportunity to. It's just, like, I can't even understand that thinking. It's just crazy. It's just crazy. Okay. Okay, we'll do a few more questions here, guys. How to read books faster. At most I can read 2 per week. I don't know if that's the right question, Ahmed, is how to read books faster. I think the better question is, how can I get the most out of the books that I read? And more importantly, how can I actually apply what I've learned in the books? Because what value is it in just consuming information but not doing anything with it? Because knowledge is not power. Real power is action, to be able to apply what you learn. Because in my opinion, if you're just reading books but you're not doing anything with it, then you're in a more passive mode than active mode, and you're deluding yourself, because knowledge will never lead to wisdom. The only thing that leads to wisdom is experience. And the only way you gain experience is by taking action. And I think one of the big mistakes that people make, and I think people don't take enough action. They don't realize the best way to learn is actually through action. So for example, when I was 17, 18 years old, my exposure to self-development, I was in the dating niche for men. And I was learning how to improve my confidence, my social skills, and how to meet women. And so I used to spend time on these message boards, right, and interact with guys, and I learned from those. Before YouTube and all this sort of stuff, this information wasn't available. And on these message boards, other men would share like their tips and advice on how to meet women, how to overcome your approach anxiety, and all this stuff. And then one kind of common term that was used is a keyboard jockey. And you don't want to be a keyboard jockey. A keyboard jockey is someone that knows all the theory about how to be confident and social and meet a woman, but can't actually apply it. Doesn't have any practical real world experience on it. And so a keyboard jockey, they get to stay safe behind the computer and not take any risk by learning and knowing all this stuff, but not actually having any results from it. So the antidote to this is, for every 1 hour that you spend learning, you got to spend 3 hours in action. Okay, for every 1 hour learning, 3 hours in action. So for example, I would discipline myself because I was caught up in this. Okay, I got to spend 1 hour learning today. But now the real way to learn is to actually go out and actually go and socialize with people, right? And actually apply the things that I've learned and improve, like actually practice having better body language and projecting my voice and interacting with people and approaching a woman and facing my fears. Like, you learn so much more in 3 hours of actually going out and socializing, interacting, and taking action than you ever will in just reading about it. You know, it's like if you want to learn how to swim, you can read all the books on swimming, or you could go swimming. You're going to learn more and get further ahead by actually going swimming, right? You read maybe an hour on swimming, and then you go out and you actually go swim for 3 hours, you know, and you actually benefit and you grow further that way. So that's the way you learn. So I don't believe that, you know, just reading a lot of books is the answer. Like for me, like there's some books that I read, it takes me a long time to read it. Like I shared on my Instagram the other day, one of the things I do whenever I come across a word that I don't understand, or even a word that I understand but I don't use it in conversation, what I do is I take out a flashcard, I write it down, I look up the word, and I write down the meaning of it, and I actually practice understanding the word because I want to better comprehend what I'm learning. And sometimes it leads me down a rabbit hole where I do more research on, so sometimes I don't even get past a page of a book because I'm like, oh, what does this mean? I want to understand this. So I go online, I'm like learning it. I spend 30 minutes learning it, and I only read a page of a book. But for me, that's more valuable, more beneficial. Is getting the most. And then sometimes as I'm reading a book, I just stop and I ponder and I think about it. How does that relate to my life? How can I share this with someone on YouTube? I actually ponder these things, and I get more out of what I read. So there are some books, yes, you can speed read it, but a lot of books that I read, I'm trying to get more out of it. And that's why I think there's actually a detriment with YouTube. And this is like totally counterproductive because I might even tell some of you guys that watch my videos to stop watching my videos. Even though that might not be best for me, I don't care if you watch my videos. I care what's best for you. So even if it means if you're obsessed just watching videos, but you're not applying what I'm sharing, then I prefer it you watch less of my videos, but you go more applying it in your life. Because that's what I want for you is I want the results in your life. I don't want you just to watch all these videos, do nothing with it. That's not going to make your life better, really. It's going to give you an illusion of progress and lead to more knowing. And more knowing most often, when you're overly passive, as I think a lot of men are and a lot of women are too, is it leads to analysis paralysis and information overload. And you get so caught up in your head. When you're over in your head too much overthinking, it prevents you from taking action. It makes it harder for you to. So even going back to the example that I used around social skills, I found for myself and other men, the more time I'd spend learning about social interaction, I'd get so much in my head, and I'd go out and I'd just be over-analyzing things when I'm out in public, and I couldn't even talk to anyone because I'm overthinking it. And I had to learn how to get out of my head, and that meant I had to spend less time learning, more time doing, and just doing, and understand, and that's why I think courses are way more powerful and beneficial than YouTube videos, is because a course, like my courses and the ones I go through, there's you learn something, but then you got to apply it right away, and you don't go on to the next lesson until you've applied it. Most people don't do that on YouTube. Most people on YouTube, they watch a video, they don't do anything with it, and they watch the next video, and they watch the next video, then watch the next video. They're not doing anything with it. A great course is, here's the lesson, here's the assignment. Go do the assignment, and once you've done that, now you can move on to the next lesson. That's what gets you results, and that's no wonder why courses produce results a lot more than just free information. Okay, great questions, guys. Someone asked about ASM. So I've got links below for you guys about Amazing Selling Machine, the course to sell on Amazon, and my bonuses as well. If you want to be part of my coaching group, if you go to www.projectlifemaster.com/ASM, then you can learn more about it. They got a training there for you. They've got a special offer that's happening right now. I think goes for the next week. And the bonuses I have too, which include coaching, my mindset training, there's so much there that I've shared with you guys that can really impact your life. We'll link that below for you guys as well, but check it out, open up in a new tab, save it as a link. And I actually been live chatting with people too on that bonus page, because on my bonus page, at the bottom right corner, there's a blue button, it's a live chat button. You can actually ask me questions. That's me responding. It's not my virtual assistant or anyone on my team. I'm there responding and answering questions about my bonuses, ASM, and it's not for everybody, I get that. It's for those that want to build their business and financially they're prepared to do so and they want my help. I'm excited to give it and help those that are committed to the process and want to be a part of my coaching group. And one of the biggest benefits I think I could give you guys in my coaching group is more than just guiding you along the way, but it's making the shifts in your life, in your mindset to set yourself up for success. And that's what I hope to accomplish in my coaching group, is not just to help you get success, but to change you in the process so that you can produce success in any endeavor that you set your mind to. Dan says, how long do I need to invest daily and to develop a successful Amazon business, and how long do you expect until it'll be profitable? Also, I may ask, what is the total cost we should expect? So Dan, that's a question that requires a multivariant answer. You're looking for a simple answer to a complex question. Okay, what determines your success in anything is many factors. Depends on how much time you invest. The more you put into something, the more you get out of it. So obviously someone that puts in more time is going to make more progress most often than someone that puts in less time. It depends on your confidence level, how confident you are in the process and yourself and your ability to execute. Obviously, if you're more of a lazy person that doesn't take action in your life, then it's going to take you a lot longer, as opposed to someone that has a lot of confidence. Even just how you manage your time and how effectively you implement things and how efficiently that you work. Obviously, someone who's very efficient will get further than someone who's not as efficient. It depends on how much money you have too, right? If you have more money to invest, there's more success that you can have. You can invest and get better results than someone that doesn't have as much money. It even depends on your creativity level. Do you think outside the box? Do you have some ideas you can bring to the table to differentiate yourself? Even depends on your IQ. It even depends on your EQ, your emotional quotient, which is debatable. There's a book called Emotional Intelligence by Daniel Goleman, but some people have just discredited what we had to say on that topic. But I think nonetheless, EQ, there's definite advantages for it. Even depends on the product that you pick, right? Some products that you pick might have more potential, might be easier to sell than others. Other products might be easier to make money from in the short term right away, less competition, but doesn't have as much potential. Even depends on your manufacturer and your supplier. If you get a product made in China, every manufacturer is going to have a different amount of time of turnaround. Some manufacturers might take you 30 days for them to, once you make an order with them, 30 days for them to manufacture the product. And then if you ship your product by air or by boat, depending which option you choose, it's going to take you longer. If you use a freight forwarder and you ship from China, for example, to the United States by boat, it could take you a month to arrive in the United States. It might be cheaper to do it that way, but it's going to take you longer. By air, it's going to be faster, but it's going to cost you more money. Like you're asking a question that it's just like there's many factors that contribute to it. So my response to you, the answer to this is, how long do you want it to take? How long do you want your success to take? You get to choose. The more you put in, the more you get out of it. Do you want it to take 6 months, 3 months, a year, 2 years, 5 years? You get to choose. You get to choose. Now, realistically, how much time does it take would be the bare minimum. I'd say a couple hours a week. When I joined ASM back in 2014, ASM 4. So to give you an idea, this is the 12th version, the newest, the best. It's incredible what they've done. And they've upgraded it in so many great ways, and they're teaching so many great strategies. And that's why people that don't, they look at the scarcity mentality or too late, they don't realize the strategies and the information that's available today that you can get. That's a huge advantage. Even, for example, the ASM that you can join today, and even with all my bonuses, you have way more than I had when I started. So technically, you should be able to create success easier and faster than I did back when I started. Even though you could say the opportunity was better or less competitive, I would say and argue that it's better today because you get better strategies and there's more tools for Amazon sellers, and you get a coach and all these bonuses that can help you. I wish that I had all of that. If I had the choice of starting today with the new ASM 12 and all of, the bonuses and whatnot versus back then, I'd probably choose today because it would, there's just so much more at my disposal. I wouldn't have to have gone through what I went through. So I think it's a better time now than it was before when I got into it. So there's many factors, but when I joined ASM, I wasn't able to even start the program for 3 months. Because I was busy with other business projects that I had to finish, and I didn't have the time to start. But I joined ASM because I wanted to get in at the best price and get my hands on it. But I knew that I could always go through it when I'm ready. And it's the same thing, by the way. I do the same thing with everything that I invest in my books. For example, there's some weeks that I'll buy 5 or 10 books on my Kindle. Doesn't mean I have to read all the books today. It's I've got books that are lined up a month from now, 3 months from now, 6 months from now, next year that I'd like to have on my Kindle that I'm going to get to. I have them on my shelf so that I can read them when I'm ready for it. And so you can go through it at any pace you want. But when I did it after 3 months, I only had a bit of time on the evenings to really work on my business, my Amazon business, because I was busy with all these other businesses that I was running. And even then, what I found is that there's actually parts in the process where you have to wait, and there's not much for you to do for a few weeks. So for example, I sourced supplements from the United States to sell them on Amazon. It took 30 days for my suppliers to make my supplements. So during that time, I was just waiting. So there was a month where I didn't really have much to do. And I was trying to find things to do while I'm waiting for my manufacturer to produce the product. So it doesn't have to take much time. And I think that's the great part, one of the great things about this business. Okay, let's move on to another question. Let's see here. I spend almost all day on video games. However, when I do cut it out, it's like I'm doing nothing for the whole day. Any advice? Well, because your video games are it spikes your dopamine levels in a huge way. And it's a source of addiction for you and meets a lot of your needs. And video games and anything that overstimulates your dopamine level usually overstimulates the need for instant gratification. And so what happens is boredom is a very uncomfortable emotion for a lot of people. They're not comfortable being bored because they've trained themselves to always have to do something. And always having to do something, like playing video games, is a way to escape the feeling of being bored. Because when you're bored and you do nothing and you just sit there, it's a very uncomfortable thing for someone that has an overstimulated mind that's conditioned themselves to be that way. And so when you're bored and you sit there, what happens is it's uncomfortable. Certain emotions and feelings come up that you don't like, things that you've suppressed in your life, like anger and frustration and disappointment and shame and guilt and fear. All of those things come up. And so what happens is when those things come up, people don't like that feeling. And so what they do is they try to find something to do to escape that. And so you take out your phone, right? Have you ever noticed that? Someone's on an elevator, they're in a lineup, they can't just sit there and be bored because it's uncomfortable. So they have to take out their phone and they have to go on Instagram or Facebook, or they have to go on YouTube, or they got to play video games, and they're avoiding. And the way you got to get out of that is you have to embrace it. You have to get comfortable with boredom. And one of the best ways you can do that is probably one of the most boring activities that you can do as a human being, called meditation. Meditation is the process where you embrace boredom. You sit there, close your eyes, focus on a focal point, like your breath, taking a big deep breath, exhale, and you do that for 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour. But you start small, right? You don't try to go to an hour if you can't even do a minute. What will happen though, inevitably for most people that are so addicted to overstimulation, is you close your eyes, you breathe. After a few seconds, probably, thoughts start to arise. Thoughts about the past, your future, what you got going on. This is boring, this is a waste of time. All these thoughts show up. Meditation, if you have those thoughts, that's a good thing. That's a sign, in my opinion, that you need meditation more like desperately, because that's very problematic. You can't turn that off. So really what you got to do when that happens is you got to practice just when the thoughts come up, you just be aware of it. You don't judge it. You just detach from it and you focus back on your breath. You do that, thoughts come up. You might even get lost in your thoughts for a minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, and have this whole process of thinking. But the moment you catch yourself and you're aware, now you're practicing mindfulness. And in that moment, you've accomplished something amazing, because now you've caught yourself and you're aware of what's happening in your brain, and you just go back to breathing in the present moment. And meditation is that constant process of calming your mind to be more present. And then when you do that, you're resetting your brain and you're able to just have more self-control and discipline, and you're not reactive and addicted to all these things that are a way to escape. So meditation, I think, is one of the most important and powerful practices that you can do. A great app that I recommend is called the Calm app, C-A-L-M. It is a subscription. There's also Headspace. You know, those apps are so great and powerful, and practice every day. Now, even if you meditate for 1 minute, start for 1 minute a day. Everybody can do it. If you can't, that's just such a BS excuse. 1 minute, close your eyes. And if you can't even do that, like that is for me like a sign that you need meditation desperately, because there's a lot of negative consequences to having an overstimulated brain like that. It produces a lot of suffering. And that's why, going back to what I said about Buddha believed that the source of suffering is our mind. And that's why meditation is like the antidote to it, especially in this crazy world we live in today, where there's so much overstimulation that we're not made for it. So that's what I'd recommend really for everybody, is practice meditation. Start small, work your way up, get to 10 minutes, get to 15, 20, and work your way up. And then over time, what you'll find is that you're going to have more control over your thoughts and mind. They're not going to control you as much. You're going to feel happier. And you just got to find more productive things that you can spend your time doing besides video games. Maybe reading, pick up a book and read. Maybe watch something more educational, like a documentary, rather than always watching movies on Netflix. Start watching some documentaries. There's some great, one of my, I'm subscribed to something called Gaia, Gaia. It's a subscription kind of like Netflix, but for spiritual developments. And I enjoy learning a lot of spiritual concepts and ideas. And then I'm also subscribed to the History channel. The History as an app, like I watch it on my Apple TV. I like watching history. I like learning about history and different, people throughout history and a lot of, different events and whatnot. Or go on YouTube and watch educational videos. For me, I like to watch a lot of things on psychology and philosophy, and I like to watch debates. I like to watch very intellectual conversations and things that make me think and open up my mind to different things. And then I read books, and I just try to spend my time doing things that are more productive. And I think you could do the same. Just work your way there to doing things that are more productive for you. All right, let's dive into another question. Okay, is she a wolf? Says, I bought ESM 12, but kind of confused, man. I don't know about my website and nor explained there too. Okay, well, I'm not really sure what you mean exactly about your website. The best thing, honestly, if you bought ESM, my bonuses I provide, if you email your receipt to support@projectlifemaster.com, the details are in the description. Email your receipt and ask your question to me specifically. I can answer it a lot better for you. Or on this chat, like if you go to my bonus page, go to my bonus page. There's a blue button in the bottom right corner. Click on it. Send your message there. I'm going to be checking the messages after the stream. So if you ask me exactly what you're asking about with your website or whatever it is, I can answer it for you directly. And it's probably better that we have a conversation around it. So. And that goes for anybody that has questions about ASM or my bonuses. If you go to my bonus page and send the question, I can answer it the best way I can there. Hey, Brandon. Brandon from Helium 10. How do you deal with time management and underestimating the scope of projects? Great question, Brandon. Well, first of all, I've always found that every goal that I've ever had in every project has never really worked out the way that I expect. Because whenever you're setting a goal and you're setting a project that you're setting yourself up for, and in my case, I set up a lot of projects for my team because we together work on a course or a project in my business, it never works out the way that I expect. Because when you're first planning something, all you're really doing is speculating, right? All you're doing is you're anticipating what can come up and how long it's going to take, but you don't really know how long it's going to take or everything involved because you haven't done it. You haven't been through the process. And you're kind of, pursuing and setting up a goal in a position of being a little bit naive to the process. And so what I've often found is that when you set up a project or a goal, you might think for yourself it's going to be a lot easier than you thought or be a lot faster or a lot smoother. But inevitably what I find is that as you go through the process, things come up, life happens, issues come up with your team, people make mistakes, you make mistakes, things happen and occur that you didn't really expect because you didn't know enough and there's more work to do there and whatever it might be. So what I've learned is flexibility is incredibly important. I think flexibility is one of the most important traits to have, to be able to adapt throughout a project and even potentially change a deadline. Now with a deadline, either you enforce it and it's strict for you, in which case you got to work more and you still got to adapt your plan and strategy if the actions you're taking are not getting you to the result that you want on this time frame. So either you have to change your plan as you're going through it and change the input and output and everything is involved in producing that result by that day, or you change the deadline. And I'm flexible with that. There's sometimes in my business, in my life, I've got a very hard deadline. For example, when I did a fitness competition, this is the date, you sign up for it, you can't change that. You can't change that date. You've got to be in your best physical shape. And as you're going through a fitness competition, you're working with a coach, you're tracking all your macros, you're tracking your body weight, you're taking pictures, your body fat, everything. And if 1 month out or 2 months out, 3 months out from a competition, I'm not seeing the progress or where I need to be, then I need to change my diet, my macros, my workout plan. my sodium levels. I got to change something because I can't change that date. On the other hand, if I can change the date, then I might do that. And some projects where I do that, I'm like, you know what? This more than I thought, more than I expect. Can I change this? Can I push it back a week from now, 2 weeks from now? And sometimes I do that. So you either have to have flexibility with one of those two things, I find, and you just try to get better in your planning skills and your project management skills. And this is what I try to work on with my team, is try to anticipate the road ahead, everything that could go wrong, you want to expect the best, but you plan for the worst. So you plan for that to mitigate, to make sure everything can be smooth. Okay. And this is a follow-up, I think, to the gaming question. Do you think I should cut out gaming or gradually improve on other things? It really depends. I was addicted to video games. I used to, when I was a teenager, I used to play a lot of Counter-Strike, Diablo 2. What else did I play? I played many different video games. Something called a multi-user dimension, which is like a typing game. A lot of PlayStation, Final Fantasy, role-playing games, all of that sort of stuff. For me, I got to a point where I hit a threshold and rock bottom, and I just got rid of all of that because that was a huge addiction in my life. I used to skip school to go home and play video games, and I did not socialize. And I felt a lot of pain from that. Eventually, I got to the point where I got rid of it. I actually sold my Diablo 2 account and made money from it because it was so built up, and there was actually a market at that time for someone to buy it. And so I made a little bit of money from that too, which is kind of cool. But I wanted to make a radical change in my life, and I got rid of all of that and made a transformation. And there are some things that are addictive you can go cold turkey with, and great if you can do that, awesome. In other cases, more gradual improvement might make more sense, where you just try to cut back, and maybe you could try both. And sometimes what you got to do is you got to set it up so that you can't even have access. So you set up controls on your computer. In my case, I sold my PlayStation. I even got rid of my TV. I learned from Jim Rohn, one of my mentors. He said that your TV is your electronic income producing machine, because he believed that every minute you spend on the TV, you're losing money that you could have made instead. So I got rid of my TV. I sold all that stuff, and I went years without TV and video games, and I resisted it for a long time. And now I can play some video games in moderation and balance, but that's what I decided to do. But in some cases, you might have to gradually reduce it. But if you can set up blocks and just remove anything that's get rid of your device or delete the software on your computer and all of that, then that can be a positive shift. Okay, let's dive into another question. What's your take on supplements and nootropics to improve cognitive function? I've used some nootropics. There's one that I'm using that I got just recently, literally a week or two ago. Let me just look it up and try. It's called Passe. Oh man, can't even find it. It's like it starts with a P. But anyways, I've used some. Alpha Brain is another one. It helps. It definitely helps without a doubt. I don't like to be dependent on any sort of stimulant, because I think you can also build tolerance to it and overuse it as a crutch too. But I think there can be uses to it under certain circumstances, and nootropics can definitely improve your cognitive function. I'm a big fan of supplements. I like to try to get as much as I can from my diet as possible, and I like to even work with a naturopathic doctor to get testing done, see what I'm deficient in, what I need, and I do experiment with a lot of different supplementation, because I believe that if you can get just a little increase or benefit from something, then it's worth it. And I even look at anything in my life. If something in my life, whether it's a biohacking equipment, whether it's a sleep hack, whether it's a supplement, whether it's a course, a book, anything that can improve my life, even if it's 0.001%, I love that. I love that, because if I can accumulate a lot of things that make these little small improvements over a period of time, then that's going to be a significant improvement in my life. And so nootropic can be a great benefit. Other supplements can be great. Get as many edges as you can in life, but just make sure you understand not to abuse or overuse some things, because it can have a negative effect as well, in my opinion. All right, let's dive. I'm trying to try to pick a question, someone that has not had a question asked before or answered. Let's see. Let's see here. Michelle, hello, I just joined. We'll send out a recap. How do we get started? Thank you. Well, Michelle, this recording, you can watch it afterwards on YouTube. Or if you're something more specific, getting started with something, let me know, please. I'll try to answer that for you. But otherwise, for those that are joining in, we've shared a lot of really powerful stuff, I think, on this stream. So I want to encourage you guys, if you joined in late, to watch the recording of this afterwards. Okay, Tom says, what's your advice on investing in different asset classes for young people? Absolutely, investing younger that you start, the better. Invest in yourself first and foremost. Invest in anything that will appreciate and value over time. Education, knowledge, learning about business, marketing, sales, relationships, health, all of that is important. And of course, investing in other investment vehicles and asset classes that can produce income and revenue long term. So great. Diversification is always the goal long term. Diversification is more important as you get older, because then that's a way to protect and mitigate your risk. When you're younger, you can be a little bit more aggressive as an investor, but of course, as you get older, close to retirement, you want to be more conservative. When you're younger, you can invest in things that are higher growth oriented and have better potential in that way. And so that's something that you can assess. And everyone has a different threshold for risk, but I like investing in stocks because it provides the best form of diversification, because I can invest smaller amounts of money than I can in something like real estate across many different sectors, industries, asset classes, everything from gold to technology to financials to consumer goods, consumer staples, oil and energy, real estate. I can invest in many different things through stocks, different ETFs and index funds. So I think, I don't know what your question is on that, but just do it. Do it and invest. KB says, are you still going to the gym? If yes, how many times a week? Yes, I am. I've been very blessed during this time because the apartment building I live in has a gym and nobody uses the gym, and they still have it open and whatnot. So I still work out. I work out right now about 3 to 5 times a week, but I've actually been more playing basketball. So one of the first things I do in the morning is I play basketball. I like doing cardio on an empty stomach. And so basketball, because there's a basketball court outside, I shoot some hoops for a bit, and then I go back to the gym. I like to lift weights once I've had a meal and my muscles have a bit more glycogen so that I can get a better workout. Okay, another question. Camilio says, I'm on day 1 of having finished university and starting my own business. Great. What are some of the best practices for when starting a business? Is a blog, magazine, a business? Awesome, that's great. Blog, magazine is definitely a business. Best practices, I'd say, is a business. There's many different parts of a business. The most important thing in a business, which is the lifeblood of a business, is sales. So you're going to have to first produce sales, which is the revenue of the business. And that should be the number 1 priority that you have, is produce sales and revenue, because the sooner that you produce sales, the sooner that you prove your concept, and the sooner that you have money to reinvest back in the business and grow the business. But sales is the lifeblood of the business, because the revenue and the profit your business generates can then be allocated to other parts of the business. So for example, when I started my business, I just focused on sales. I didn't know anything about legality. I didn't know anything about accounting. I didn't know anything about customer support. And I didn't even waste my time with those things initially, because at first, the most important thing is sales. So produce sales first, and then I focused on, okay, now like bookkeeping, legal, all of the other elements that involve in business. And so I think that's the most important thing, is learn sales, learn how to produce revenue. And when you're first starting, you got to do, beggars can't be choosers. You got to do whatever it takes. You might have to go to trade shows. You might have to sell online. You might have to, like when I first started doing seminars when I was 21 years old, I started posting on Craigslist and then meetup.com. And even at one stage, I was making flyers and putting them up on lampposts, like anything. And really when you're first starting a business, you're experimenting. You're testing things. You're like a scientist. You're seeing what works. So if I put up flyers, in lampposts in my city, and I go to universities, I put up flyers, and I go to Craigslist and I repost things every day, and I go to meetup.com, and then I post on Facebook. Like, I'm trying to see what works. And when you find something that works, what you got to really do is double down on that and really focus on that and leverage that as much as you can to produce significant revenue. And once you do, then you can expand into other marketing channels and sales channels in your business as well. So try not to dilute your focus and multitask too much. Try to really focus in on one thing and get success with that, and then produce revenue and sales. And then with that, you can allocate that to other parts of your business. Okay. Hey, Julie. Julie says, you've had my full attention this entire live chat. Thank you. Awesome. Well, thanks for being here for this long. And I get lost in the time, and I think that's a sign that when you really love what you do is time disappears. And I think we've been going now for 3 hours, and I've got a lot of energy. This stuff fires me up. So thank you. What are my thoughts on, how do you feel about marijuana usage? I think marijuana, cannabis can be beneficial. I think CBD in and of itself can be beneficial as well. So CBD as supplementation, and there's many, obviously, CBD products as well, and that's without the THC, which is what produces the high. Otherwise, the THC in cannabis can definitely be beneficial. It can be fun, absolutely. It does make you eat poorly. It can definitely make you eat junk food and binge, and it can make you lazy and procrastinate. But I think you got to be careful in getting addicted to it. I think it can make you isolated in some cases, and some have, again, isolation, eating poorly, and laziness. And so I think used in moderation can be beneficial. Marijuana does produce some dopamine, so it can be a little bit addictive, but obviously not as much as something like cocaine, obviously, which is very addictive. So I think it can be used in moderation, and I've used it in moderation, and it's become legalized in Canada, which is where I'm from, and even in California, which I spent a lot of time in as well. And so, yeah, and I think if you are going to use it, use a vaporizer, because I actually knew someone who was one of the healthiest people that I knew that I used to order wheatgrass from. We called him Wheatgrass Dave. He died from lung cancer, I think because of heavy use of marijuana. So using as a vaporizer is going to be a lot better for your lungs, and just use it responsibly. Oh, thank you, Stephen. Stephen says, I consider you my mentor. I've been watching you for about 8 months now, and you've changed so many aspects of my life. It means a lot, man. Thank you so much. Understand that you're the one that did the work, and I'm happy that what I shared with you could benefit your life, and you had an open mind to it. And I share these things because everything I share has made an impact in my life. It really has. Otherwise, I wouldn't share it. To share something and create a YouTube video on something, it requires a lot of passion and wanting to communicate it and wanting to understand it and share it with the world. And so I only share things that have really benefited my life. And I wouldn't be sharing it otherwise if I didn't think it could benefit your life too. So thank you for having an open mind to it. And I wish more people consume more of what I have to share and applied it, because I think that a lot of people could be a lot better off for it and a lot happier for it. So thank you. What drive inspires you to be at the top of your success? Well, I think, to be honest with you, I'm not that driven to be successful at this stage of my life, to be honest with you. I think there's different, we all have different stages of life, different values at different stages of our life. And so for me, I was much more driven for success, obviously when I didn't have much, when I was poor and broke in my life, and I was very desperate and wanted to change my life. I was much more driven then, of course, and willing to make sacrifices. And I was driven at first by money and desperation. Then I was more driven by, once I had money, to do what my passion was and something I'd enjoy, because what point is there really having money if you don't enjoy it? And in a way, that's a sacrifice, right? Because there's many things you can do to make more money that produce more income, but is at the sacrifice of your happiness. Because you might, there's things that I could do in my business, and there's many opportunities, things I could do. I can make way more money than I make and be way more successful, but it'd be compromising what I really love and my passion, right? So at a certain point, when you make a certain amount of money, you got to decide, Am I going to continue just sacrificing to make more money, or am I okay with making less money and having less success, but to enjoy what I'm doing more and find my strengths and really fulfill that, and maybe make less money, but you're more enjoying yourself. In some cases, you can actually make more money because you do enjoy it, you're more passionate about it. And then I decided, okay, well, I also want to like help people, and more money doesn't make a difference. I want more fulfillment. I want to make more of an impact, and that can be at a sacrifice too, right? Because in some cases, like, you know, if you just don't give a shit about helping people, you could just focus on making more money at the compromise of that. So at certain points, you might have to change your values. And I think for me, originally I was more driven for success. And then I've always wanted life mastery, because how I define success is improving every aspect of my life, right? Having great health, relationships, spiritual life, happiness, and have a great balance in my life. And that's a sacrifice too, because I could be more successful. I just sacrifice those areas and just put more time into my business. So I think for me at this stage of my life, I'm not really that driven to be more successful or to like be the top person. That doesn't really excite me, because I know my colleagues, and I know people on YouTube, for example, and other influencers, but I wouldn't really want their life, to be honest, because like just what I want for my life is different what they want. And if they a perfect example is, I really do not care to have more attention or fame. I'm really proud that I have a million subscribers on YouTube. I think that's incredible. And my YouTube channel gets about 1.3 million to 1.5 million views every month, which is incredible. And I've got over 1,000 videos that, like, right this second, there's thousands of people watching my videos. But to be honest with you, I don't care for more attention, more fame. I actually see in some cases more disadvantages to having more fame, because I don't ever want to be in a position where it's like I don't have any freedom. And I see a lot of celebrities and people that I even know, they can't even go to the store. You know, and it's tough. It's tough to live your life that way. And I value having my freedom, be able to go out in public and whatnot. So for me personally, I'm very content and complacent actually just having 1 million views per month. And so what I actually decided to do, I decided to publish less videos, because I was like, you know, my YouTube channel is growing too fast. I can publish less. And actually what I'm more interested in is not getting more subscribers and more views. I'm really actually more interested in going deeper with people. And that's why over the last year and a half, I've spent more time now going deeper with people in my courses and creating better, more deep content with people, because I just see more value in that than reaching more people, but less people take action with it. Instead, I think what people need is they need deeper education on certain subjects and get more help with it. And I think that produces better results. And that's kind of more what I'm focused on. And I'm just more focused at this stage, to be honest. I've achieved enough success that there's not much more there that it'll give me in my life, because I have more than enough money than I ever need. I could stop doing what I do tomorrow and retire, and I'll have enough passive income for life just from my investments alone, not even including from my business, that I'd have a great 6-figure income and lifestyle. And so for me at this stage of my life, I realized that there's limits to what success can give you in your life. Yes, it can provide more impact and contribution and maybe a better lifestyle, but I've already got more than enough there. I've achieved everything I've ever wanted there. What I'm more excited about, to be honest, and more motivated by, is going deeper spiritually, because I think the returns you can get spiritually is so much greater than returns that you can get financially at this stage. I'm more interested in going deeper in relationship and opening up in higher levels of love and higher levels of consciousness, and studying and learning. It's like a different universe. There's so much to learn and explore. I'm much more interested in going into my mindset and making shifts in myself. There's a lot of different things I'm really excited to go deeper with, more than just money and success. So for me, I'm more excited with that, and it's more in alignment with the ultimate vision of what I want to produce. Okay, guys, a few more questions here, and I gotta get going here. Thank you, guys, for all the kind words. Thank you. Let's see here. Thank you, guys. Really appreciate the kind words. Thank you. right, I'm not seeing many questions here. I'm trying to scroll up. How can a visual artist apply your principles and programs? What do you mean? What do you mean exactly? I don't see why you wouldn't be able to apply them as a visual artist. Are things different for you based on? Do you think it's different for you perhaps being a visual artist? Are you talking about business specifically? Like you're a visual artist and you want to turn your art into a business? Because I have many programs, including self-development programs, I think could benefit anybody. But and if you are asking about business or an artist and you're asking how can that help you, I think there are definitely, you got to understand, there's some niches that are a lot harder to create financial success with than others. A lot of artistic approaches can be very challenging because very few people become very successful as a musician or an artist. And sometimes like the path for someone like that is you still continue to do your passion, your art, your music, and that's your passion. And if you can make some money from it, great. But the path that often people like you would take, and what I did and what I'd recommend, is focus on creating financial freedom first. So for example, maybe it's building a business that's you're not passionate about the business, but the business is a vehicle and it's a means to an end. You can make like $5,000 a month, let's say, by building an online business. And you don't love it, right? But you're doing it to make $5,000 a month. No different, by the way, if you have a job, you probably don't like your job or it's not your passion, but you're doing it to make a certain amount of money to provide for a lifestyle. But if you build a business that makes you $5K a month and $60,000 a year, and now you're financially free because that's maybe passive income or doesn't require much time for you to maintain that to make that income. Now you have freedom when you no longer have to trade your time for money. So now you're in a position where you can pursue your art and your passions or philanthropy or things that don't have as much potential to make you money. So sometimes you look at a business as just a means to set it up to create freedom where you can buy back your time. And now you have 40 hours a week that was once given to a 9-to-5 that now you don't only have to work 4 hours a week, 10 hours a week, whatever. But now you have freedom to do what you want and what you love. And maybe that's just spending time with friends. Maybe that's traveling the world. Maybe it's your art. Maybe it's your music, whatever it might be. And that's I think the goal, because sometimes even your passions can change. But if you build a business and passive income that you no longer have to work for money, then that gives you the ability now to pursue whatever your passions are as they change. Hopefully that answers some of your question because I didn't understand it fully. Okay, we'll do one more questions, guys. We're going over 3 hours here today. Thank you guys so much for your time. The recording will be here for you guys. Okay, we'll wrap up with this one. This is a good one. Where do you see yourself in 20 to 50 years' time? Patrick. Hey, Patrick. Thanks for the question. 50 years is a long time away. I can't honestly say that I've envisioned that far ahead, but I do always have a vision 10 to 20 years. And it, beyond that is quite challenging because, man, life can change so fast in so many ways. I mean, I've been at this journey of self-development since I was 17 years old. I'm 34 now, so what's that? That's 15, 18 years maybe. So I've been at this for quite a long time, and your life can change in more ways than you ever thought. One quote I've heard is most often people, they underestimate what they can achieve in a decade, but they overestimate what they can do in a year. And when you look at things in a 10-year period of time, a lot of your life can change. So for me, it's hard to know that far ahead, but I'll kind of share a little bit of my vision. I've shared it before on my YouTube channel, my vision that I've had and my vision board and things like that, which is quite fun. You can look back on my channel for that. But this last 2 years of my life, I moved away from Canada. And the reason I moved from Canada is because my long-term vision was not to live in Canada. I'm from Vancouver, Canada, and I love Vancouver, one of the best cities in the world, but the biggest problem that I have with the city is that it rains and it's cloudy and overcast for most of the year. And summer is amazing. I love summertime, but I loved weather so much and it didn't really fit my lifestyle. And part of my lifestyle, my dream is to spend summer times in Vancouver because I love summer times there. But also, I never was really inspired in Vancouver to get a house. I've always lived in apartments and penthouses and whatnot, and I love downtown and being in the activity of things. But I've always wanted to have a house, and I've always wanted to have like a swimming pool. That's just, I don't know, maybe that's just the dream that they sell you, I guess, right? Having the house with the swimming pool. But I realized having a house in Vancouver with a swimming pool is actually not even that practical, because 8-9 months of the year you can't even use it because it's raining and dark and overcast. And I've always wanted to live in California. And maybe that's also the California dream that's been marketed to me as well. But I've spent a lot of time in California. Spent 3 months one time when I was in my early 20s living in San Diego, in Ocean Beach and Mission Beach and Pacific Beach. And I really loved it a lot. And I've also spent quite a bit of time in Los Angeles and the San Fernando Valley in different parts. And I love the weather. And I've stayed in many different parts of California. Love the weather. I love the lifestyle. I love the vibe. I love the access to health and a lot of great, amazing things that can really enhance the quality of life. And I personally believe in the vision that I want to have. I can have a higher quality of life there than I could in Vancouver. And so I've always wanted to live there. And 2 years ago, Tatiana and I were, really trying to plan out our lives, and we realized, okay, well, we want to have a family, we want to have kids, we want to transition to that, and we're both lucky that we're fairly young, especially Tatiana. She's a lot younger than I am, and so we had a lot of time on our hands, and we're focused on our careers and whatnot, and we decided, before we move to California, get a house and have kids and get dogs and all that sort of stuff that we want to do, how about we travel? We want to travel, and we're young, and we want to enjoy the world and enjoy this lifestyle that we've created as a digital nomad. And as long as we take our laptops, we can live anywhere in the world and work, and it can be great. And we also thought, well, we want to live in different cultures too. How cool would it be to live in different cultures? And it's not that you can't travel when you have kids, you absolutely can, but I'd say the type of traveling you do when you have kids will be different than when you don't have kids. Certain countries, for example, that I'd go to without kids versus when I have kids, some of my travel plans would change. So we realized, okay, let's we don't want to live in Canada long term. We are already traveling half the year. We're like, well, listen, we're paying half of our income in taxes in Canada. Yes, British Columbia, Canada, very high tax rate, one of the highest in the world, and one of the most expensive cities in the world, by the way, too. We're not even spending half the year here, and why are we paying half of our income in taxes when we're not even planning on living here long term and benefiting from this country? And what happens is when you depart as a resident of a country, you have to pay a departure tax. So what happens is when you become a non-resident of a country like Canada or even the US, but Canada, they tax you on residency. US, they tax you on your citizenship, and they tax you on your worldwide income. So no matter where you live, you're taxed as long as you're either a citizen of the US or in Canada's case, a resident of Canada. And so what happens is when you depart and become a non-resident, there's what's called a deemed disposition. It's almost as if you've died, for example, you get taxed. That's why they say the two things you can never avoid in life is death and taxes, because you're taxed every day on every transaction you make, right? Whether it's based on a sales tax or state tax or federal tax, you're always being taxed. Even when you die, your inheritance is taxed, unless you have a trust or something like that. But you can never really avoid taxes. But what happens is when you depart Canada, there's a deemed disposition. You got to pay a tax as if you sold your business and all of your assets. So for me, I own real estate in Canada. I owned a multi-million-dollar stock investment portfolio. And I owned multiple businesses. I owned a few different businesses, a holding company, and a few different subsidiaries. So what happened was I had to get evaluations done on all my companies to determine the value of it, which costs money. I had to determine, what the capital gains, the appreciation of all my investments, determine the value of that, and the same thing with my real estate property. And the moment I departed Canada, I had to pay a very significant tax, basically half of my net worth, to the government of Canada. Okay, that's the price you pay, but now I'm free. And then we realized, okay, well, let's set up, if we're gonna travel, we can go to the US, but we're not even gonna be in the US. Like, we wanna move there long term, but to live in the US now, we're gonna be paying taxes, but we wanna travel. So let's hold off on that. And instead, we can spend a certain amount of time that we're legally allowed to as a tourist in the United States every year. But we can instead set up a residency in Panama. So Panama, I actually already had a company set up in Panama back in 2012 when I came here. And so I leveraged that to become a resident of Panama. And I'm giving you a very long answer, but hopefully there's some value in it for you guys, because it actually shows a huge opportunity people don't realize, and a huge benefit of having an online business, which is going offshore, and the freedom and the things that you can do with an online business that you can't with an offline business or a job. So anyways, set up residency of Panama. A huge benefit of Panama is you keep your residency if you only come into the country for 1 day every 2 years. So for example, in a lot of Americans, they set up the residency in Puerto Rico. The problem with Puerto Rico, you have to be there 6 months of the year. Panama, I only have to be there 1 day every 2 years. So I can go travel the world, never step foot in this country, remain a resident of Panama. If I come back 1 day every 2 years, I keep my residency. That's a huge advantage. I can go live anywhere in the world. But then also a huge benefit of Panama is that their tax system is territorial. You only pay taxes on income that you produce within Panama. Any money that you make outside of Panama, you don't pay any taxes on. And so if you don't avoid tax, there's never a way to completely avoid taxes, but it is a huge tax advantage because most of my businesses, I make money outside of Panama. So what we decided to do though, it's a bitch to actually run a business from Panama though, because you can't set up PayPal, you can't receive payments from like Stripe, and it's a lot of headaches with it. There are ways, but it's so hard. It's hard for an online business, but we also decided, okay, let's set up corporations in Singapore. Singapore has one of the best banking systems in the world, even better than the Canada, the United States. And Singapore has a lower tax than you would in Canada, the US. You pay a 17% flat tax, which is a lot better than 50%. But also there's no withholding tax when you pay yourself from Singapore to Panama, because that's money that I'm making. So I can be in a really tax advantageous situation for 2 years while we travel the world. I could save millions of dollars in taxes through this structure and everything that I set up. It's 100% legal. And we've been able to get ahead in a huge way financially, save a lot of money, invest a lot of money, especially during the time, by the way, when the market crashed back in March, and even just, some of the volatility, huge advantages. And so we've set ourselves up where next year we're going to move to California. California, one of the highest taxes states and parts of the world. So we're going to go back to paying half of our income in taxes, and accept that at that stage you enjoy the lifestyle, you're willing to do that. But we're moving there, buying a house, going to buy a house also, or an apartment in downtown Vancouver. So I want to have 2 different homes, go back, enjoy summer times in Vancouver, the rest of the year in California. We're going to get some dogs, we're going to have kids. We're going to take a bit of a step back from our business in some ways and to transition to other aspects of our life. And we're going in that different direction. And for me, I'll always have visions that I have and ideas and projects of what I want to pursue. But I've got many different things that I want to do in my life. But I'm transitioning more in my life, less to be focused on success, more to be focused on family, lifestyle, health, relationships, my spiritual well-being, and all of that. And so I'll probably be transitioning a lot of even what I teach in Project Life Mastery, and wanting to create different courses that can help people benefit other aspects of their life as well, not just business and marketing. So that's my vision, that's my plan. And even long-term with my business, with Project Life Mastery, I want to actually bring in someone that can run my business. Because even though I've taken my business to this point, which has been a very successful business, I want to remove myself from it, and I know what my strengths are in my business now and some of the weaknesses that I have. And my weaknesses in my business is I'm not the entrepreneurial type to build a big culture and a big team and to hire people and fire people and manage people and all of that. I'm really great as a coach and as a content creator and strategist and many things that I'm good at, but I need to find someone that can complement me, that can run my business and grow my business, especially the marketing department of my business, because what you guys see that I do here on YouTube is a very small part of what I actually do in my business, very small part. There's so much behind the scenes that I'm managing with my marketing team, with everything else that I do in my business that's pretty time consuming. And I'm really good at some of those things with marketing, but it's holding me back from actually putting up more content and being more to my true nature and my true strength. So what I need to do is I need to find someone that can complement me, a business partner or a high-level CEO or executive to run that and work and handle all the other stuff behind the scenes of my business so I can be in this element. And I want to be able to ramp out more courses and programs and products and even bring in other influencers under the Project Life Mastery brand so that I can make a much bigger impact, but it doesn't have to depend just on me. And that's why I built Project Life Mastery and not just my personal brand, so that I can leverage this to go even bigger. And I've got a huge vision for that long term. So that's a huge long-term vision, and I'm not ready yet, honestly, to take that step, because I'm more right now going to be focused on family and my lifestyle a bit more. But when I'm ready for that, I know I can put my foot on the gas and grow my business and scale it and make an even greater impact. But I think we kind of do things in stages, and you got to understand the long term of your life. And even I've got to take more breaks and time off, and even just, I've been a YouTuber now for over 8.5 years, right? So I've been doing this for a long time, over 1,000 videos, and I've never even really taken a lot of breaks. I've always made sacrifices in my life, and I've never really enjoyed everything that I've created. And even the financial abundance I've created, I live well below my means. Well below my means. I haven't really upgraded my lifestyle much. I live a great lifestyle, but it's way below my means. And at a certain point, I want to rebalance my life a lot more. Kind of like a stock investor, you rebalance your portfolio at different times. And sometimes you got to take a break to get that altitude and perspective and rebalance your life. And as your values and what your goals kind of have changed. But I'm excited. I'm excited for the next stage of life, and same thing with Tatiana. And we're excited for next year. A lot of things got pushed back because of the coronavirus. Our travel plans, our wedding, like a lot of things got pushed back. So it's unfortunate, but nothing to complain about. People are much worse off than us. And even our immigration plans changed, our travel plans changed, our honeymoon changed, my bachelor party changed, everything, a lot of things changed. So a lot of things, but that's okay. So we just adapt with it, focus on what we can control. And next year, we're optimistic will be a great year to move on to that next stage. So it's a lot that I've shared with you guys, a little bit about my plans and kind of what I've done, and the strategic planning way that I look at things, I guess. But hopefully you guys were able to benefit from what I had to share today. We went 3.5 hours. The recording will be available for you guys. I want to thank you guys so much for your time. And I know there's more questions. I didn't get to everything, but I'll probably do another live stream later this week, or maybe next week. I do tend to go live a bit more often on my Instagram. It's a little bit easier for me to do so. So if you follow me on Instagram, which I think there's a link in the description, you can follow me there, and I pop on live there a bit more often. Otherwise, for those of you interested in building your Amazon business, amazing selling machine. Can't recommend it enough, guys. It's changed my life, and I really believe in the program, and what I shared with you today can really make a huge impact for you and just the opportunity that's available. So for those of you that are interested in that and it's a good fit for you, awesome. The link again is below for you in the description. Head on over there. The bonuses I put together are still available. They'll be available for the next week. So you can take advantage of them. It includes group coaching with me, which, by the way, is very, very rare. I don't do coaching very often, very, very rarely. I'm definitely not going to be doing a lot of coaching as I transition into having a family and changing my lifestyle too. So it's a great opportunity for those of you that want to work with me, and hopefully you saw today how much I could perhaps help you in a more intimate environment over a period of time. I believe that if every week we're getting on a group call and you're there with a group of other people and you've got your questions for me and you're sharing what's coming up as you go through the process, even your fears and doubts and getting lost, I can be there for you and I can support you. And that's something I always wish that I had. And I think a lot of people don't realize how hard it is to find that and how rare that is, because there's not a lot of successful people in our lives that are willing to help us. I don't know about you. I don't know if you have friends and people in your life that are successful and that are willing to help you. I never had that. And I think it's rare. And I think when you have someone that does care and that's willing to help, take advantage of it. Take advantage of that. You'll definitely get to where you want to be a lot further and faster. So that's one of the bonuses I have among many others. But the coaching, I think, is an invaluable thing because we can work together on a consistent basis. I can hold you accountable. I can push you. Whatever comes up, let's tackle it. Let's handle it. I can go a lot deeper with you in coaching and on a weekly basis than I can in YouTube videos. And that's really what I want, and how I want to help people is more on a deep level. And for those that are willing to commit, those are the ones that I can help so much more than those that aren't. because they've already demonstrated they have the mindset and the willingness to invest their money and their time, and they've got skin in the game, and they're going to get so much more value as a result of that. And so ASM is a barrier. Yes, it is. But those that are willing to rise up to it and jump through that barrier, those are the ones that I can help the most, because they're so much more coachable and open-minded and willing to do what it takes versus those that aren't. And so that's available for you guys. Again, the link is there for you. My bonus page. If you have any questions about my bonuses or ASM, send me a message on the live chat. If you send me a message there, I can't respond right away, but afterwards I will go on over. And if you don't, then you can leave your email and I'll respond back when I'm online. So if you have any questions, chat with me there. Otherwise, I want to thank you guys so much. I just always appreciate and never take for granted the privilege that I'm in and the privilege that you've given me, which is your time and your attention. And it's something I just don't take for granted, because I know that you could be doing anything else right now in your life, but you're here. And hopefully you got some benefit here today, and that you're better off for your time here. So I encourage you to watch the recording. Thank you guys so much, and I hope to see you again soon. God bless you. Be well. Take care.